focus and a crit. Finn will make that into
Well, it is that time again. And of course that time is grind time. And welcome, Mr. Foregathers. Have you gathered 4 things together? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I've gathered the 4 things. That's not strictly speaking the correct spelling of 4 for the example I just gave you, but I didn't care at the time, and truth be told, don't think I care now. But I suppose technically that is... how many balls have you gathered by shouting 4? Probably not many, because people scatter. Although having said that, maybe they scatter and leave their balls behind. That could always be a thing. So that's always fun. Here we go round the Final Fantasy bush. Fantasy bush, fantasy bush. Maybe don't shout the words fantasy bush. Who's your fantasy bush? Oh, I really like George. Which George, I've no idea, but there was definitely a George Bush at some point. Happiness is true. Oh, the cradle will fall. So there's not been a huge amount of change, truth be told. This game is beginning to drain my soul, which I think might be its purpose at this stage. I get the distinct impression that this game was designed and built to harvest the souls of the players who play it, and that is why we wind up in the situation we're in at the moment, which is grinding. It is, of course, the grind time grinding. Nobody likes it, everybody hates it, but it's something you have to deal with. Now, I'm not going to claim this is necessarily the best spot for grinding, but according to a couple of bits and bobs I read, it is a tolerable place for the grind, because you've got sort of 6,600 CP for these 2 guys who go down fairly easily, and then sort of 5,000/10,000, depending on how you do it, for the cactuar up on the hill. Now, admittedly, I think the cactuar up on the hill was my own decision. It was based on a secondary piece of advice on how to grind the most efficiently in Final Fantasy XIII. One of the pieces of advice was there's a bunch of... I don't need to worry about going all the way to the end there. So there's a couple of cactuars at the lake, and there was one suggestion that going between cactuars on the lake was quite a good way because they net you 5,000 CP per battle and aren't too difficult. But then the second piece of advice was the pair of big boys in the corner who net you 6,600. And there just so happens to be a little cactuar who also is no longer a little cactuar round the corner from them, because what I think, if you want to just farm the pair down the side, what you have to do is go all the way back up to roughly this area that I'm in, where I'm fighting the cactuar, in order to get them to respawn so that you can go all the way back down. So it seemed more efficient, to me at least, to simply fight the cactuar. And what I was doing originally was just fighting the cactuar in its base form. But then I discovered, or I discovered previously, that if you let the cactuar dance, the cactuar will grow, which is an interesting sentence to behold. If the cactuar dances, the cactuar grows. And that's what it's done right now. So it starts out as a cactuar, and it can do its little dance, shake its little thing, and turn into a giant cactuar. Once it's a giant cactuar, that's kind of when you want to strike and stop it dancing, because if you allow it a second dance, it will turn into Cactuar Prime, I think they call it. But Cactuar Prime is annoying and awkward. But what's beneficial about the giant cactuar is you get 10 grand, and it's not that difficult a fight. Basically, I've set this up again mostly upon the guides, which is double synergist at the beginning to really get those buffs going, and then Commando Fang to just try and lay in some pain. And then this one, I must admit, I don't quite do the same, because what I do is I get into Ruthless, That blocks the Behemoth from losing its stagger meter, and then once it's lost... oh yeah, no, I do want that. Once it's turned into its sort of bipedal form, because I was at first, I was trying my best, and there is a very awkward timing somewhere, deep inside, somewhere, there is an awkward timing that would allow you to kill... I think maybe if I just use Relentless Assault it might work, but I don't know. But there is an awkward timing that would allow you to kill the Behemoth with Fang and Fang only as a commando, but it requires a lot of sort of remove those, add them, strike now type fiddlings, which I found to be just a pain in the arse. So what I've discovered is just embrace the fact that it's going to transform and just try and mitigate it by applying some kind of debuff. And basically it really is some kind of debuff. Sometimes you end up getting D-Shell, sometimes you end up getting D-Protect. It doesn't matter which. Either or, it does reduce its effectiveness and allows you to kill it a little more productively, and it's very useful in that sense. This one is basically, so the two fights, I'll give you a guide to the way I've approached these two fights. Basically you hold off, you start in Commando Synergist, lead character being Commando, because that way nobody attacks the Captor too early, which allows it to do its first dance. Then once it's done its dance and it's registered as grow, you want to get in there and attack. You've got a bit of a window. You've got a bit of a window to do so, but you don't want to be facing off against Cactuar Prime. He's a pain in the arse with 1,000 needles. And by 1,000 needles, he will just go 1,000 needles, pew, 1,000 needles, pew, 1,000 needles, pew, 1,000 needles, pew, 1,000 needles, pew. You don't usually need diversity in this, but sometimes if he gets a bit off himself, because for those interested, the Cactuar forms seem to be standard Cactuar, just does a light little kick to your face. The giant Cactuar does this triple kick flip to equally your face, so it just keeps bouncing into kicks. It's unpleasant and it's annoying and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And then Cactuar Prime, the third state, I believe. Unless I'm mistaken and there's a state in between, but I'm fairly certain it's Cactuar, Giant Cactuar, Cactuar Prime. Cactuar Prime does 1,000 needles, and just repeatedly. It's genuinely, like, ridiculous the amount he can fucking needles you. It's just needles. By no means is it an impossible fight, but it's a pain in the arsehole beyond comparison. I mean, if you think of the biggest pain in your arsehole you've ever felt, a fucking 1,000 needles is going to be more. I promise you that. You do sometimes get in peril as well, which is sometimes quite useful against the Behemoth King. But as I say, basically, when you drop down into your Sabotage Commando Ravager, your Commando and Ravager will break him via the stagger meter, and Fang will put on... It differs depending on which resistance triggers and which doesn't. She'll either... Most of the time it seems to be D-Shell. I think she seems to bias D-Shell on the auto battle. I could probably just go D-Protect if I really wanted to, but to be honest, it's so much quicker just using the auto battler, which is why basically this is sort of time versus reward, and the time each of these battles take is not intolerable for the reward you get at the end, but it's not great either, because I've been doing this for fucking... I don't want to know how long I've been running between these two encounters. But there is another piece of good news for anybody. Encore dance. I need to stop. Ooh, that's the one fatal flaw you will find whilst doing. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. Truth be told, I would not recommend it. But if you do happen to find yourself a fiddling with this sort of thing of grinding this exact combat scenario, it is incredibly easy to get into like a sort of fugue state where it's just battle, 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 battle. And the problem with that fugue state is sometimes it takes your brain a moment to go, I'm supposed to be stopping the dance. No! Stop the dance. Can't stop me dancing. Stop the dance. Oh, stop the dance. You only want a single dance with a cactua. Otherwise you shoot needles up your... I don't know where, but it'll be up your something. You don't... I don't think you want to... Well, actually, I don't know. People do eat cactuses, don't they? But, I mean, that is technically a sentient cactus. But then again, arguably, I'm perfectly happy eating meat, so... And that's a sentient pig makes up my bacon sandwich, so... Once they're dead, they're not quite so sentient anymore. So maybe you could eat cactua steaks. I don't think they've ever done that, though. But in fairness, I don't think they've ever done chocobo steaks or something like that, though. The chocobo is only ever a sort of beast of burden for transportation rather than edibles, I think. I mean, I might be wrong. I don't know every single detail of the lore of every single Final Fantasy game, so it's difficult to know for absolute certain. So the method here, basically what you do is you drop into your Sabcom Rav, and your Sab and your Com and your Rav take care of... Whoops, I was a bit slow on the uptake there. Your Com and your Rav take care of the Behemoth King's stagger meter, and then your Sab can get away with its... While the Behemoth King's transforming, you can get a couple of debuffs on the Magister Therion, and you can see it's still there. By the time you defeat the Behemoth King, it is still there. So let's see. I've actually got a timer now, which is possibly slightly concerning. So it's like probably whack about 5 minutes off of that. So we've been going about 12 minutes, and we've got 56,400 CP. It's not good. They're not good numbers. There are, if you were more aware, shall we say, of the situation than I was when I moved through the areas, what you would find is you could have used Orphan's Cradle for huge volumes of CP. Unfortunately, I was unaware that Orphan's Cradle disappears once you pass on to the area where the final boss is located. And so all that precious, huge chunks of CP is now locked away from me. So unfortunately, it's this or the Titan Trials. Now, I can't deny the Titan Trials do yield quite good amounts of stuff. Basically, what I'm doing here, if you were wondering why I kept the Synergists around, my marker for changing paradigm in this fight is once everybody's got Enfire. So basically, once everybody's dishing out the flame, which I believe is a weakness, that's when... I did experiment using Sabotage against it, but it's so... You get very little for your Sabotage, because it takes you a long time to get days on it, and then it shakes days off within seconds. It's like you go, oh, I've managed to daze it. I'll transfer to one of my other Oh, it's no longer dazed. By the time you try to switch paradigms, it's already shaken the status ailment off, so it was just not paying dividends, and its resistance to daze must be super high because it was not landing. Even with, here's the other new thing. I never actually got to the other new thing, or the other accomplishment. Anyway, we'll go with the new thing here. The other new thing I've gone with here, and I'm still not 100% sold on this decision, to be perfectly honest. Because, yeah, that's not actually as high. Anyway, I've gone for the Calamity Spear. Do feel free to look out for the Calamity Spear. It's quite nice. Sort of, I don't know, it's oddly sort of tentacly, I think. It isn't tentacles, but it's got that sort of vibe of tentacles, I feel. But it's quite nice. What that one does, you may remember it from when I picked it up. I may have even dismissed it when I picked it up. Although, having said that, that's a good ability. I think I dismissed it owing to the stats, which I still sort of feel is a maybe. But the ability itself, I don't know. I hope I didn't dismiss. I might have, but I hope I didn't, because it is actually not unreasonable. And she has now become quite an accomplished saboteur, truth be told. That's why I think going against the Behemoth, sabotage works quite nicely. However, I'm not going to lie, I'm loosely suspecting the big bad booty daddy that is the final boss, chances are quite high that he is immune to all the status ailments, and therefore having quite good sabotage is not actually going to pay me dividends. But I shifted the weapon, and now I'm basically no longer willing to not shift the weapon, essentially. I can't be bothered to change back to the glaive now, because, as I say, I've grown accustomed to the fact that it's quite a nice glaive, and I have chucked a load of points and stats and shit in this new glaive, which is why it's still, you know, capable of doing reasonable things, which is quite good. And as I say, aesthetically, quite pleasing. I do quite like the purple. Purple proved quite a pleasant choice of colour. Tell you what, we'll do a cheeky save, and once I've done a cheeky save, I'll highlight the second accomplishment I had whilst training during the week. So the second accomplishment, I say second accomplishment, I mean I think it's really the only accomplishment. The only other accomplishment is getting some CP. But the true accomplishment, I beat the Tomburys. I beat the Tombury boys. The Tombury group of 3 that was causing me such annoyance, I managed to actually beat them. It was basically a blitzkrieg tactic, really. I put on every buff via the Fourth of Soul, Age of Soul, Deceptor Soul, so I had the advantage at the beginning of the battle. I had all the buffs available, and I basically, there was a guide I saw that suggested using Quake at the beginning to sort of block their stagger meter from dropping, I think is the idea behind using Quake. I did that. I then just attacked them. Oops, we should probably be in Relentless Assault by now. I attacked them relentlessly, humongously, just and because we had quite a nice array of big chunky explosions, ruingers, firegers all over the place, we did finally sort of manage to just overwhelm them basically and killed them off. But so that was a lovely moment. It was a lovely sort of, yes, I've beaten the Tomburys. However, as is so often the way with lovely moments and lovely things that you accomplish in video games, it was immediately followed up by the video game going, oh, you thought they were hard. Fuck you. Because, for anybody unaware, the follow-up fight to the Tomburys is another Neo-Chew. And I believe we've seen footage of me trying Neo-Chews. They are damn near impossible. It's one of those things where I almost, like, with its little friends immediately, that Neo-Chew we've been trying, Mission 55, proved pretty much impossible. However, at the very least, with the fight after the Tomburys, E1 for anybody interested, I'll refer to it as the E1 fight from now on, perhaps. But the E1 Neo-Chew is on its own to start with, and that made it just that little tiny bit more doable, it felt. And to a certain extent, I was sort of holding on in there. It felt like it was going to take me a literal Ice Age or 2 to actually achieve it. But nonetheless, it did feel like it was going in the right direction, albeit slowly. But then, about halfway through its health bar, it decides to summon its little children, as it does, as it always does. And unfortunately, because I just about managed to get used to the pattern, it was chucking out Screech. I could block with Sentinels, and then into epic amounts of healing, and then redoing my buffs. And I got into a nice little pattern where I was able to bypass the Screech each time. And then the game decided, no, I'm summoning small Pikachus, if you're interested. Not quite the same spelling as the Pokemon, but nonetheless they are Pico. I think they're Pikachu's, as in, so you've got Microchews, and then I think one of the even smaller measurements is a Pico. So you've got like millimeters, then you've got nanometers, micrometers or something, possibly the other way around. And then you've got like picometers, and it's that spelling, I believe, if you were particularly fussed. And so yeah, they're Pikachu's. And the problem with those is they completely off-balanced it. So the moment Screech came up, they were able to not only they finished off the Sentinel that was guarding us, which obviously that completely unbalances the stratagem if you're having to revive your Sentinel. And it just, yeah, with its children, it just completely decimated me, because there was nothing I could do to bypass the children. And it was disappointing, a very disappointing fight. So I'd have to try and win that fight before I even remotely tried to do fight 55. And it's a shame, because for anybody unaware, the reason why I would have liked to have completed mission 55, which is the Neochew with its children in the gardens that are accessible via the Chocobos, the reason why I rather wanted that was it's an item, I believe. I don't know whether it's an accessory or just a straight-up item, but it's some kind of triple CP item, so it triples the CP you earn. And that would have been delightful, of course, for this training situation. However, what I discovered is that they've kind of locked it behind the Neochew. And the Neochew is just, I mean, it's so obnoxious. It's ridiculous. Because it's got a massive strike attack that does a huge chunk of change. Screech is an abomination of a move, because it knocks out your buffs, which is just, I mean, come on, game. It's one of those ones where it just, you needed to take one of the things it could do off. And at that point, it would have felt slightly more viable. But no. The problem is, especially because of the pattern as well. So it screeches, and then only a few moments after it screeches, it will use Pollen. And so Screech removes all your buffs, and huge volume of damage. Huge amount of damage. Then Pollen does a tolerable amount of damage. Intolerable for me, but tolerable if I was the enemy. A tolerable amount of damage along with poison. And so you get lodged in this kind of thing where you have to defend against Screech as best you can. Then you have to try and prep for the fact that Pollen is about to rain down on you. And then after Pollen, you have to try and not only mitigate the damage that's been done from Screech and Pollen and recover from poison, but you also then have to try and do the tiniest amount of chipping damage to it. And it's just, as I say, it was so slow. And it's one of those fights that just feels like a pipe dream. There is no possible way I'm going to get through that fight, because it's just too awkward and too obnoxious to actually manage. And I must admit, I'd be intrigued. I'm probably not going to, but if I wasn't quite so lazy, what I would like to do is fire up my PlayStation 3 to see if I ever managed to actually beat it on the PlayStation 3 when I was playing it through back then. Because there's a part of me thinking, no, I don't think I ever would have. Because I think even back then I would have just dismissed it as, this fight is bullshit. Whereas, of course, nowadays I'm even more willing to dismiss a fight as being bullshit far quicker, in fairness. But, you know, these things are sent to try us. These things are sent to try our patience, and try our patience they will. Yeah, no, okay. Whoops, no. Oh, he's dead. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. That's completely... I think it might be because the timing was ever so slightly off to the norm there, so I ended up getting a little extra damage, which actually killed him before he transformed, potentially. Which, I mean, I'm all for that. I mean, I've succumbed to the notion that it's probably not going to be a case of I can kill him before he transforms, but nonetheless, I have sort of admitted defeat on the notion of actually trying to prevent it and just mitigate. And so previously I was running between that Behemoth and the pair down there, but that Behemoth only gives 4,000 experience, whereas this, obviously, the giant cactuar is giving me 10,000, which is quite nice. But also, I just got very irritable at that Behemoth on the hill there, because when you approach it from behind, it shouldn't be able to see you. And I know that seems like a reasonable thing to think, doesn't it? You're approaching from behind, it doesn't have eyes in the back of its head. It shouldn't be able to see you, so you should have a nice easy time of it, because you'll get the back attack. But no. I'm fairly certain every single time it was a clear and obvious approach from the rear situation. That Behemoth sees you. And so eventually, I just went, no. No world, no. I refuse to do your stupid fucking fight. And before I decided to go Giant Cactuar, it took me a while to realise precisely how they evolved, truth be told. Because what I started out doing was I was doing the lake run that was suggested on this guide. And so I was flitting between two Cactuars. And I was using this opening here, which is the Commando Synergist all for one. Whoops, that is the wrong one. Shit, I might lose a character. Won't make too much difference. Well, it might make some difference. This one's gone poorly. As I say, 9 times out of 10 you can deal with this cat. Could you please not strike the air, Fang? That's one of the few things I do ask of you. If you could just not punch air. If you just strike the cactuar instead. But you don't usually need a medic for this, but sometimes, if you're not paying attention, as I clearly am not, it does tend to sneak off on you and kick the shit out of you, but that's fine. It's all good inside of the hood. Have you got a hood for me? Have you got a hood for thee? We could be hood brothers. So yeah, I was doing this sort of bouncing off the lake, doing Commando all for one as my opening idea, because that's what the guide suggested. And then I thought I got clever, and it turned out I didn't get clever, but I thought I did. I thought I got clever, and I thought, do you know what? What I'll do is just focus on massive amounts of buffs. So I went for Synergist, so that we just had buffs coming out of our asshole for days. And that was when I discovered that they could transform. And I was very confused, because it was like, how are they transforming? I've never seen this. What's happening? I don't understand. And my first theory was simply that by defeating them repeatedly, that's what caused them to evolve. So you were, you know, by grinding the way I was grinding, I was actually causing myself more issues than I was solving, of course. And so I had this thing where and then I suddenly had this dawning moment while I was doing this run that it's actually this little dance. And basically what you can do is if you're using like every other time I've encountered a cactuar, I've always been using one of my more aggressive openings. Which are my aggressive openings, I do not know, but nonetheless, I've been using my aggressive openings, and therefore it's always been an attack first. And so I've always naturally cut the dance short. And what's quite interesting is I'm fairly confident from what I've seen, and I've fought this Cactuar many times, so I've seen it a lot. From what I can tell, this Cactuar, it can't do a dance once its dance has been interrupted. So basically it does its little dance at the beginning, and if you interrupt it right at the beginning, it will stay a Cactuar for the entire fight. If you leave it to get to the giant Cactuar, it will try the encore dance, which is where I can intervene and interrupt. But yeah, it's quite an interesting little thing. I don't think there's a third dance. I think once it hits Cactuar Prime, it just starts going 1,000 needles, 1,000 needles, 1,000 needles. And it really is that quick. It's a stupid fight. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to get irritable. Despite the fact that I'm probably going to get irritable again. But nonetheless, it's one of those age-old ones where it's like, well, this is silly. Because it's embarrassingly fast, and there's very little you can do. That's the wrong bloody thing again. As I say, sabotage against the Cactuar, not worth it. Because it's ridiculously difficult to get a sabotage on it, and then even worse, the sabotage wears off almost instantaneously. So it's like, yay, I didn't die. It's quite annoying. So you may be thinking, how long are you going to be doing the same two fights over and over and over and over and over and over again? I don't know specifically. The idea, I've got about 150. The idea is probably do it for about an hour and a half maybe, and then hopefully I will just have enough stats to just maybe get through that final boss. There's a couple of different bits and pieces I might try and adjust to in terms of the paradigms that I choose to use, but I mean, I honestly can't guarantee that for starters, because I mean the ones I was using, I'm not sure where I put them on the little notepad. I definitely had them. Oh, we don't really want that anymore. We want to go back to this one. Here we go. Yeah, so I think Hero's Charge I would possibly be considering taking out. Combat Clinic, yeah. Although I would possibly, I don't know. I'm tempted to try 2 Sentinels against his big nasty manoeuvre, so that we've got double the wards and just double the everything. Bully, I think definitely get rid of Bully. So I've got a gap there, which might be quite useful. Because I can't deny it's. I might. Well, no, it's a bit late now. I mean, I suppose if it goes horribly wrong, I might end up having to try. But Fang, of course, doesn't do medic. More's the pity. Am I right? Is there any wonder this is the shittest stream available to you? Alright, let's kill a Cactuar for the umpteenth time. There we go, back to Relentless Assault, please. It can sometimes be worthwhile having the extra buffs, because there is Protectra that comes out and around. But it's double synergist is an interesting and troublesome decision, and triple synergist even more so, because they do tend to trip over one another with the buffs they're trying to apply, because I think they're each working off roughly the same logic, and so it's like, guys, could you not put 2 of those on the same time? Now, it's not too bad. Once you get Boon, having it being cast on you twice isn't so bad. It's not like a huge detriment. However, it does end up being like you don't necessarily get the ones you want when you want them, which is to a certain extent the benefit of bringing Fang. But that's the other one I might consider. I'm not sure if Snow. Yeah, I can't remember if Snow actually does synergy at the moment. I don't. We should be able to get away with that. Even if Vanille dies, it won't make too much difference. Alright, maybe it's going to be... no, we're alright. Nobody died. Because sometimes there's a point where you can just go, yeah, I mean, Vanille's lying on the floor. It doesn't really matter though. It does not matter. Because it's so close to death. I can kill it all. Bam. What does a behemoth's asshole look like? I think Fang knows all too well, because she is forever ramming. I was a little bit early there, wasn't I? Ramming her face in a behemoth's asshole. Her face in a behemoth's asshole. Because that is unfortunately the requirement of getting into battle with one of these things. You frequently get asked to the face, and it's not exactly what you want to see. It's not exactly what you want in your life. A begrimed claw. Ugh. It's quite good getting these items. I must admit that the problem is I couldn't be bothered to upgrade a collector's catalogue because it's bad enough. I've run out of most of the... Because I have been using... I'll give you a quick assessment. So obviously a lot of the stuff I've been doing has gone into her Calamity Spear because that originally started out as something else. This is the second form, hence why it's got improved debilitation 2. But so yeah, a lot of my resources have gone into sort of getting that back up to a reasonable standard. Adamant Bangle is now level 29, giving her 1,360 HP bonus. Increases physical resistance by 19% for the level 5 General's Belt, and the Goddess's Favour reduces the duration of status ailments, is at its highest. But I must admit, I don't know if that's actually doing anything for me, because there's no number attached to it. It's not like some of the others where it's like HP plus this number. You've upgraded it. It's a higher number. Resist physical, this number. You've upgraded it. It's now a higher number. This one's just rapid recovery. Reduces the duration of status ailments. Does that have an advantage for being starred? I do not know. I do not know. That's not really changed. The Effulgent Cape, Mark, Ribbon. I haven't really focused much on the Physician Staff. Possibly should do. And then the only other person who may have changed is my boy Snow, who's got his improved wards, which I think is definitely, yeah, having that is brilliant. And then, yeah, he's got maximum HP, which I've tried to work on a little bit. The Imperial Armlet to improve his physical and magical resistance, and then his elemental resistance. But I did find out, I think it's this N-type ring. The N-type ring, I thought upgrading an accessory would just make it better as a sort of what it does. So I assumed it would be increases all elemental resistances by slightly more. It didn't. It transformed into one of those goddess cloaks, I believe. And I was like, fuck off. I don't want that. Can I have the thing I had previously back, please? I don't want this anymore. Which was a very annoying situation. I must admit, I possibly should have reloaded a save file, but I can't say I thought of it at the time. So often. I don't think of these. Oh, get rid of the Encore Dance, please. Always be prepared to remove the Encore Dance, because the Encore Dance will shit you up. As previously specified. For very... I was going to say for various reasons, but it's absolutely not various. It's one singular reason, and that is 1,000 needles. 1,000 needles, 1,000 times. What is 1,000 times 1,000? Is that a million? Yes, it is. It took my brain a moment to figure that one. Change of plan. And don't get predictable. Which I must admit, I haven't heard that one today. It might just be because I've now tuned the game out of my brain. Which is what you need to do when grinding. You just tune the game. And now we bring you Smooth Jazz FM. There we go, I've retuned my brain to something completely different, so that I can survive the almighty grind. The grind first beyond capacity, beyond comparison. Diddly 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 diddly. Oh, he started on the diddlies. He has indeed, he has started on the diddlies. Vanille, it would be useful if you didn't die, but have no real significance or consequence. But only 4 stars? Nah, I couldn't give a shit. The star rating makes no odds whatsoever. We'll face off against these guys and then do a cheeky little save and then carry on. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, my god, this is boring. I don't want to watch this. Imagine being the one who's been doing it all week. Not suffering quite as much now, are you? Sometimes, of late, I must admit, it's been more and more. Sometimes I do start wondering why I bother with some of these games. They do like to drain the fun out from them sometimes. And I do seem to have ended up with a bit of a meh zone for games recently. The only one that's really enthusing me somewhat is, in terms of my own private supply, I mean, I'm still rather enthused by Dragon Quest Builders 2, which is always a fun one. And Evoland was very... I kept looking forward to Evoland. Although, having said that, even Evoland started draining me a little bit on sort of, if you want to get all 30 stars, go look for them all over here, and we've got all our hidden walls. So even that one was starting to drain my will to live. But yeah, I've not got particularly good games recently. There's a good few that have just sapped my will beyond comparison. I can probably name them if you so choose, but I suppose I might as well. Let's name and shame them. And I'm not saying these aren't necessarily bad games as such, but they are games that have just... They take it perhaps too far and just add too many sort of tiresome, tedious mechanics that are like, I don't need this in my life. I just want... I mean, I would have loved him to have done Bravery and Faith on Fang first, really, but clearly decided the one person doing the fighting definitely doesn't deserve the fighting buffs. Oh, Zaz. How is your AI functional at this point? I do not know. In fairness, he's never made that many mistakes in the past, so it's not like... Although, having said that, he did run away from us earlier in the previous episode, didn't he? So, maybe it is just Zaz's AI is atrocious. But I think they all run off the same governing AI, so it wouldn't just be him. But anyway, so yeah, let's see. Some of the games that have drained my will to live. Sakuna? I think it's Sakuna with an N, of Rice and Ruin. I was playing that on the Switch. And, oh, I forgot to do the little cheeky save, didn't I? Oh, well, we can do the cheeky save now. Got 2 lodged in my little pattern. I suppose arguably that's what you need. That's what you need in grinding. You need to get lodged in your little pattern and then never think about anything else. Just phase out of existence and just carry on grinding. Carry on grinding. Carry on grinding. Because when you're grinding, you know that you're getting somewhere. At least you hope so. I can't deny, it's not felt like I've been getting somewhere. This one is proving a troublesome game to get. A true, what feels like a true advancement. I think it's just the nature of the way they've done the levelling up system with the crystal points and stuff. It's just proven this sort of slog of like, am I actually growing? Am I growing as a human being? No. Am I growing as a character in the video game? And the answer is equally no, it doesn't feel like it. Because it's like, okay, I've done a vroom, vroom, vroom around this crystarium, and I don't feel any stronger. Because it's very subtle, I think, is the problem. Very subtle. It feels like it's taken an eternity, and it was very nice earlier on this afternoon, it was when it happened. But part of what the guide suggested when it came to Neo Choose was having your player characters above the 10,000 HP mark. And now Snow has been there for a while, but that makes sense. It's Snow. He's meant to be the muscle-bound wall of defense. So having a high HP pool is quite reasonable. But I was also trying to get Fang up there, and she just seemed to be hanging out at the 9,000 vicinity for so long. For so long. And it finally just tipped over, and it was like, fucking hallelujah. Hallelujah day. I'm so pleased that she has finally managed to crack that 10,000. I don't necessarily think it's enough to beat a Neochu at this point, but because I think you need to have upgraded all of the Earth-based defense accessories as well, and it's like, I don't have the resources anymore, game. I don't have the resources anymore. And the only way to get the resources is to do endless grinding again. And as I say, will to live diminishing every time I play this game, which is always a problem. You know a game is starting to get a little bit silly when you start playing it going, oh god, I don't think I can do this anymore. It's gone to the wrong side of fun. And I know when the fun stops. But yeah, it's a troublesome one. Because I don't want to. I want to at least finish the story of the game, which means defeating Big Bastard Bartandalus. Big Bastard Bart, he needs to be taken down. Please, I want it so very much indeed, yes. And I think I feel like we might be able to accomplish it today. I don't know. I'm feeling like we need to do it today. It's going to be unfortunate because I still haven't prepared for the next, whatever the next is going to be, the next SaturJay RPG. So I don't know whether there may end up being a stall week. Quickly find something short and sweet and stall for a little bit. There is possibly an option or two that I was considering, but we'll see. But yeah, I still want to build that overlay for the other one, and unfortunately I haven't gotten around to it. Still, I know it's been at least a couple of weeks since you said you should be doing that. I know, but I've been doing other things. Other bits and pieces, odds and ends, and doings and thingies. Anyway, back to Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. The game itself is quite a nice little idea. You always know it's going to be bad when you start with that. It's a nice idea. Because it automatically and inherently suggests that the execution didn't work. But if you've never played it, the idea is you are the goddess of harvests. And I think if memory serves, the mother of the character you play was the goddess of harvests, and her father was this sort of warrior type fella. So she kind of straddles the line between being goddess of the harvest and being a warrior goddess. And it's I quite like her as a character. She's a bit whiny, but growing as the game progresses, and that's the whole point of the story, essentially. And yeah, fundamentally, that bit is quite nice. I don't mind it. I like the characters. I like the setting. I like the sort of the way it presents itself. So you've got like side-scrolling combat, which again I quite like. It's quite nice. It's got annoyances. I cannot deny that. It's got annoyances attached to it. The parry system I don't particularly like, because it's based on the idea of you need to parry. You need to sort of hit a direction and your attack button at just the right moment. And I would prefer a sort of dedicated block/parry button, so that if you do fuck up and you say do it early, you've at least got your block mitigating a bit of damage. Perhaps that's how I prefer that idea of the system. But you know, that's just me. It's a perfectly acceptable system in terms of combat. And then you've also got the second side of it, is you spend your days on your little farming homestead cultivating rice, hence the of rice part of the title. And that's quite fun. I quite like the little farming, I'll call them mini games for lack of a better term, but you sort of planted the seeds, I suppose arguably before planting the seeds you did have to till the field. But yeah, you tilled the field, and the more you tilled the field, the more abilities you unlocked to till it easier. And then you did your seed dispersal, and the more times you did it, the more you got unlocked. And it was very pleasant little system. And yeah, you then sort of harvested it and dependent on how much effort you put into the harvesting of it. So you could just go, it's harvested, it's hulled, that's it, done. And that would have netted you a tolerable amount of stuff, I think. But then you have this secondary option of sort of really going for it and getting white rice. So you have to, you know, pestle and mortar it for a prolonged period of time. And you got better benefits of it. And that's how you basically sort of improve the character. Because what she'd do is, because she's a, you know, goddess of the harvest, she was, you know, buffed and leveled via harvesting your crop. And it was very nice. Until it just sort of started dragging. Because the overarching system they've got is this idea of exploration and stars. So each level is like, do this, this and this for a star of exploration. And the problem is, I found I very swiftly ran out of shit I could do and figure out what I could do to get the exploration. So it was like, okay, fine, I'm going to have to grind. And I suppose it boils down to grinding. And it was really very much like, I'm going to have to explore this area. Now I'm going to have to explore this area again. Now I'm going to have to explore this area again. I can't find the item I'm looking for, so I'm going to have to explore it again. I can't, you know, I need to defeat X. No, and the other, it's not even just not being able to find items. There was a couple where it's like, defeat this many monsters. Well, I can't do that in run. So you deliberately input an idea of having to do it repeatedly. And so eventually I just couldn't anymore. It's like, oh god, I can't do the same shit over and over and over and over and over again for such limited rewards. And so yeah, I just couldn't carry on with that one. It just grew so boring and tedious that it was ridiculous. And so I moved on to another new one. I thought I'd grab myself a cheap on sale new one. I think it was on sale, and I hope it was on sale now. If it wasn't, oh dear. I don't know, it was 2 games to the price of 1, but that one, I think I've broken the back of it a little bit now. But it's just not, I don't know, it feels like a poorly designed game. But the game in question is Langrissa 1 and 2. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but Langrисser 1 and 2. It's the remastered version on the Switch again. I don't know, I found it very awkward, because in one of their levels they were sort of asking you to, they were very much asking the world of you, and I couldn't provide said world, and so that sort of irked me somewhat, because it was basically, if you rushed the enemy in order to try and prevent the civilians dying, you wind up with your hero character dying, and that's game over. If you decided, no, I won't rush, I'll tactically approach this, the civilians are so stupid, they run into their path, run into the enemy's path, and get taken down by the enemies. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. So if I rush in, I lose because the civilians die. If I tactically approach, I lose because the hero dies. This is wonderful. I finally figured out a sort of workaround, because it's basically, you have these hero characters and you have the mercenaries that you can hire up that surround them, which it's an odd thing, because it's like, you don't get many characters, but you get tons of units, and that makes it a very peculiar experience, I found. It feels like you've got an overwhelmingly large volume of stuff on the fields, but equally you don't have to care that much about the lesser sort of mercenary units. And so I don't know, it's got this weird vibe to it that sort of promotes you not giving a toss about your mercenaries, whilst only caring about where your hero units end up. And it just doesn't quite feel right. It doesn't feel like it's a good game. I don't know. As I say, I think getting past the first few levels, I think, has possibly made it. It might be getting better, I think, is the crucial thing. Because the latest level I did, it felt like I had a bit more agency over everything. The first level was very much, you had very little impact on anything because it was all and I think this is the other issue it's got. It's all sort of, the first few missions have been pretty much all AI controlled stuff, so your enemy units and your ally units, and all of that's AI stuff. And it's like, so I do a couple of little bits and then I have to wait a ton of time for the AI to finally get done with all its units. And this is where the whole having shitloads of units feels kind of a bit like you don't really want that many units, because it seems to slow everything down quite substantially. But yeah, I don't know. As I say, the latest sort of, the latest level gave me a little bit more sort of, it gave me 3 sort of player characters, each with their sort of mercenary units, and no, certainly at the beginning of the level it had no ally units, which I think made it a lot more entertaining, I think. When it was just ally units, it felt like I was not really part of the game. It was like, oh, I see, I'm just sort of, hello, I'll just stand over here and let you guys fight, shall I? Which is not a great way of introducing a game to a player, I don't think. But I suppose it might just be because they're older games, older theories and older decisions in terms of what was a good idea. But yeah, it's a troublesome one. As I say, I'm continuing with it, giving it a go, but it's difficult, and not in a sort of, I don't know, I don't mean that in an actual difficulty sense. I mean in a sort of just slightly tiresome. More so, as I say, it's because they're quite such huge things. It's like, so essentially you get a main character and then you get at least 4 mercenary units surrounding them. And if you've got your army of tons and tons of characters, you know, a few main characters and a ton of mercenary units, and then you get the enemy mains with a ton of mercenary type units, and it's suddenly like, Jesus Christ, there's too many units on this map. Dear sweet Jesus, please, could you not have that many units? There's a silly amount of units. Especially when, as I say, when most of them were ally units for the first couple of levels, and it's like, but I want to play the game, and I don't seem to be the one playing the game. I have very little to do here, guys. I'm just sort of sitting here trying to figure out what the fuck I can do, and you've got your ally units wandering around for hours and hours. Yeah, it's not been a great gaming experience for me on the old switcheroo at the moment. It does, yeah, it's got its ups and downs, I suppose, in any situation, but I have had a couple of games that have just pushed me to the point of tedious annoyance of oops, I forgot to go to Relentless Assault. And of course Final Fantasy XIII is not helping that situation. What else have I been playing? I've been playing Outriders. Unfortunately, Outriders has sort of gone the way of gone off to the side in favour of trying to grind Final Fantasy XIII. So I look forward to getting back to Outriders. I've been enjoying Outriders. I know it's not. I mean, they keep fucking it up with every update. They seem to manage to screw it in a different way, but still. Especially there was not the latest one, because I think I spotted there was one come out the other day, but the one just before that. They actually said in the patch notes, we know this is going to go wrong, or something. Not quite this exact bluntness, but it very much read as a sort of, we know it's going to go horribly wrong for some people, but we've released it anyway. And it's like, fuck it, what the shit? You can't just You don't just release the patch hoping it's going to be reasonable, but knowing it's going to fuck it for some people. But apparently they really did. They really did think that was an acceptable thing to do, and they were sort of slightly raked over the coals for that decision in their sort of in the comments. Oh shit! I hindered too early. That's unfortunate. There we go. That's what we want and what we need now. So yeah, but other than that, I mean, I've not really done much of the online mode because I don't really know people who play it, and I don't know. I think I did try a couple of random strangers previously, but there was like this moment where it was like, "Are you playing the game?" Nope. Cool. Don't think I'll bother playing online with you. And then the other one was like, "Hey, buddy, let's go kill a thing." And I killed a couple of dudes ahead of the guy, and I immediately got kicked. Which is like, are you fucking shitting me? You've left the party system open. I've joined because I've done a little bit better than you by killing a couple of dudes before you did. You've kicked me immediately. What a dickhead. So, as I say, not a lot of experience on the multiplayer, and I'm basically currently still sort of plodding through the storyline, and I quite enjoyed the storyline. It's nothing, you know, I wouldn't have said it was going to win any awards, and I wouldn't necessarily write home about it. Dear Mother, I've been experiencing Outriders recently. I thought I should write home about it. No, I don't think it would be sufficiently good to write home about, but nonetheless, enjoyable. Very enjoyable game. Liked it. I liked it a lot. What else? Anything else I've been playing? I mean, Yakuza 4. And that's had its ups and downs. That's had its ups and downs. I've never actually played Yakuza 4 before. It's been quite nice, actually, because I think I've mentioned this in the past. I don't know whether I ever fully acknowledged whether I found this out or not, but I played Yakuza. I'm basically sort of playing them off and on. So it's kind of like I'm playing a game, then I'm playing a Yakuza, then I'm playing a different game, then I'm playing a Yakuza. And it's worked out quite pleasant, truth be told. And I was always confident. I always knew I'd never played 6 because that was waiting to be played and is still waiting, but is going to be at the end of this sort of Yakuza fest I'm currently engaged in. But I always knew I'd not played 4, and I was pretty confident I'd not played 5. But I was absolutely convinced I'd played 1 and 2. And it turns out, when I played Kiwami 2, the re-release of Yakuza 2, I discovered that I distinctly had not played Yakuza 2. Because I was sat there going, I don't recognise any of this. I don't remember a single piece of this. And then I picked up the remastered of Yakuza's 3 through 5. Yeah, 3, 4, 5. And I discovered, I must admit, in peril. Oh no, good, there's a D-show. And I discovered upon playing 3, it was like, this is the one I remember. So all of the details and memories of thinking it was Yakuza 2, it turns out it was Yakuza 3. Fun story, I know. Hilarious beyond comparison. But there you go. That is the situation. I think it may not be entertaining, but it is factually accurate. So yeah, I played through Yakuza 3 and very much enjoyed that. And now I've been playing Yakuza 4, which features the sort of 4 characters split over. And I've discovered that I have missed so much because I've just been progressing through the storyline, and I don't know whether there's going to be it's one of those ones where I don't know whether there's going to be an opportunity towards the end where you can go around and fill in all the gaps you missed early doors. But it was like it's like, because you play as the 4 characters. Get on, go on. There you go. Because you play as the 4 characters, they're shorter sort of parts. It's about the same length of game, but each character has a shorter part, as it were. Very disappointing to the hostesses discovering that they've all got shorter parts, but nonetheless, they've got shorter sections in them. So I was just happily sort of playing the game as the first guy, Akiyama, and it was like, oh, pootlin, yeah, I'll do a little side quest, do a little story, do a little side quest, do a little story. And usually that method works quite nicely to be able to experience all of the side quests and all of the story. And then towards the end you get a little bit of a warning. If you continue here, this will be the final battle. Whether it's just a sort of story vibe you're feeling or whether it's an explicit message on screen, either way you do get this sort of warning that the end is nigh. And unfortunately, because they're shorter parts, I didn't really think of the idea that this character's end is nigh. So it was like, yeah, pootling, doodling, doodle-doo. And suddenly, I was moving on to the second character. And it was like, oh, shit. I didn't do half the things I was supposed to do. And then I discovered, unfortunately, the second character. I didn't like the second character's fighting style. As a character, I didn't mind him, but his fighting style was just... It's basically, if you've ever played... I mean, arguably, if you've ever played Yakuza 4, you might know what I mean, but if you've ever played Yakuza 0 as opposed to Yakuza 4, which I'd recommend Yakuza 0, truth be told, it works nicely as a standalone game, if anything. It can happily act as an independent object. Whereas most of the others do. Well, I mean, all of them function as an independent object. But there are links. There are links across the series, which is why it's been quite nice to sort of try and play them all in a fairly succinct period of time. But yeah, the second character is very much like the beast style fighting in Yakuza 0, which I'm assuming this is Yakuza 4 is probably what sort of inspired perhaps this idea of having the different styles of combat for the characters in Yakuza 0. It depends on what they do with Yakuza 5, which I don't know because I've not played, but I do plan to. But anyway, he plays very heavy, so he's got limited combos and all of his strikes are just slow and cumbersome. And so there came to it was quite the shock when you'd come from Akiyama, who Akiyama basically played like normal Yakuza for the most part. A little bit different, a little bit more kicky and a little bit more fun, I think, than standard Kiryu fighting. I found, anyway. But then, yeah, as I say, when you moved on to Saitama, it was like, oh my god, this is so heavy and cumbersome, and I don't like it. And that's basically all I could think throughout most of his chapters. So it was kind of like, yeah, let's just get this done. I don't like fighting as this guy. It's annoying. I don't enjoy it. And so that's basically what I did. I moved on fairly swiftly throughout his part. Then the third part, which I've only just finished, was a guy Tanamura, and I must admit, his combat style brought it back so much because it was a lot of fun. It was all... Now, see, it's weird because it was like it goes from one extreme to the other, which is basically beast mode, going from beast mode to rush mode in 0, if that helps. As I say, if you've never played a Yakuza game, the references aren't going to assist. But yeah, you go from heavy, cumbersome, not great gameplay, I felt, to rapid, fast, speedy, parry, all, you know, arm bars, and being able to arrest someone. Because Tanamura was a police officer, so you had the ability to sort of, either if they were sort of stunned, or if they were arriving on the floor, you could pull out the cuffs and go, you're under arrest. And I thought that was fantastic. I absolutely adored being able to arrest people. I did it far too many times, and it was supremely enjoyable every single time I did it. I don't know why. There was just something very satisfying about arresting people. That's where I must admit, I suppose they've got judgment with the private investigator, but I wouldn't mind seeing if they could do sort of the police side of Yakuza, perhaps. It might be quite interesting. I suppose technically they've already done it with Tanamura, but I mean sort of more for a full game experience, it might be quite entertaining. And I would definitely, I mean, I'd probably purchase anything. I think it's Ria Gagatoka is the company. I might be slightly off. There's a lot of A's, and I don't know precisely where all of the A's end up going, but they are just, everything they've produced so far as I can tell, has been just absolutely stellar. I suppose arguably a lot of it, I can't deny, there is an element of a lot of what they release is the same package with slight variations. Especially the earlier Yakuzas, obviously Like a Dragon has sort of really mixed it up. And some of the little bits and pieces between games, but yeah, they've been consistent and therefore very good and very entertaining, and I quite like that about them. Right, let's get this Cactuar. And I do look forward to the next Judgment game. Not entirely sure when that's coming out. I think it's imminent. I definitely think it's imminent. But I have now reached the point of Yakuza 4 where I am Kiryu once more onto the Kiryu. I will kill you with Kiryu. And he is. It's interesting because he seems to have started at a much higher level than anybody else. Not officially, but he has more health bar, more moves, more everything available to him as a starting point. And so it's been quite satisfying entering the game and being an ass kicker once again. My name is Kazuma Kiryu. I am the Dragon of Dojima. I will kick the shit out of you, and I will laugh whilst doing it. Well, I can't deny it. I think it's one of those weird ones where when I started as Saijima, the guy I didn't like playing as, part of the key reason why I think I found it quite annoying and didn't enjoy it was because they threw sort of a fairly chunky boss fight at you early doors, and the guy was just a pain in the arse. Saichi, something like that. Saigi, I don't know what his name was. He was a fucking arsehole though. Fucking nightstick thing he was waggling around at you, poking you with, and it was just, ugh. It's one of those fights where it had too much health and too decent of combos. The ability, as is often the way with Yakuza, they often have this ability where you do a perfect dodge and then you try to take advantage, but they immediately counter with their own perfect dodge and perfect blocks and stuff, and it's like, fuck off. If I actually manage to pull off a decent dodge manoeuvre, do not take that away from me, game. Do not take that away from me. But unfortunately, Yakuza bosses do have a tendency of taking that away from you. It's like, I've achieved something. No, you haven't. I'm sorry. You truly suck at this game. But so yeah, it was very early doors, so you barely had any health, and you didn't really have much in the way of items, and so all in all, it was such a slog of a fight, and I ended up having to repeat it several times, which never helped my mood. Which I know, there's a beautiful irony on the screen right now. How many times have you repeated these fights? And it's doing nothing for my mood. I'm telling you. I'm just basically just thinking of all the lovely CP, which I fear the problem at the moment I've got is like I've built up 355,000. That's not bad. That's higher than I've ever been before, but I suppose I have been doing it about an hour 15, which is a lot longer than I usually get to with the grind. Usually it's about half hour to 3/4 of an hour. But yeah, it's not going to be that many steps. It's not going to be that many steps on the Crystarium, and that's where the disappointment lies. It's where you've gone, yes, I'm getting somewhere, I'm doing the battles, I'm doing the grind is going somewhere, and then you try and add those CP to the Crystarium, and it's like, ding, 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 you've run out of CP. It's like, oh, shitting hell. I got nothing from that. Why did I spend so long grinding for this? The rewards do not match the effort put in, which is unfortunate at this stage. You really do need a situation where the end is aiding in your decision to have used quite so much time to get there. Bubbly, 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 bubbly. Anyway, this boss in Yakuza 4, basically he was a pain in the arse when he was Saijima, and I think that put me off Saijima throughout the rest of his gameplay. Really, that's where it was that boss fight that really highlighted how slow and cumbersome he was, and at that point it was like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it at all, which didn't help him. And unfortunately, when I started as Kazuma, guess who came back? The prick who did me in earlier. And it was another nightmare fucking fight, because he had all the same bullshit, just extra health bar, I think. Which is like, oh, fuck, please, Yakuza, stop throwing men with stupid health bars at me. I don't like it, I don't want them. I never wanted a man with a stupid health bar. I want men with tiny health bars. They satisfy. Well, actually, weirdly enough, no, I don't. I want men with tolerable health bars. Because if they're too small, you can't pull any fancy manoeuvres out. And if they're too big, it takes too long to fight them, and it grows annoying. You need just the right amount of health. Because that was part of the problem with a couple of the Tanimura moves. Because a couple of his require a certain amount of setup, I found. Now, I may end up finding out there was an easier way to set them up, perhaps, but certainly one of them, it took me ages to discover. My own stupidity, admittedly, but it took me ages to discover the fact that his first sort of combo move, so it was like punch then chop, would turn them around briefly. You still have to act quite quickly to take advantage of it, but nonetheless it would turn them around, which allowed you to then take advantage by grabbing them from behind, allowing you one of your super moves to engage. And that super move, what's quite nice, is that super move led into your ability to send them sort of stunned, which allowed you to then cuff them from a standing position. So my standard combo for quite some time against a lot of the guys that I encountered were who were able to be sort of chopped and turned, because some of the fighters you encountered were too heavy for the chop to sort of stagger them around, so you couldn't get to their back. But nonetheless, any character I could do this to, I did do, and it was basically punch, chop, grab them, do the special, do the heat move to stun them, and then get straight in there with the arrest, the handcuffs. And that was quite entertaining. As I say, I think so far Tanimura's, apart from Kazuma Kiryu, who is obviously the best character in Yakuza, because, you know, he built Yakuza. He built this Yakuza. He built this Yakuza on 10 billion yen. That was a reference to the first game, was all about a missing 10. I think it was 10 billion? I feel like it must have been 10 billion. Because 10 million I don't think is enough for them to have given two shits about. 10 billion, however, I think is what caused everybody's concern in the first game. But anyway, obviously he's the best. He's the best character in the games, which is very nice. And then, but Tanimura, I think, proved a shining star from Yakuza 4, as far as I feel. Now I know Saijima crops up in later Yakuza games, but I would be interested, and I'll find out at some point. I'll be playing Yakuza 5 and 6. I don't think I remember seeing any reference to him in 7, but I might be mistaken. But nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see if he crops up again, because I liked him as a character. It's actually almost unfortunate, because I know for a fact that Saijima does crop up in the game again, but I didn't particularly like. I liked him as a character, but didn't like him as a fighter, which is, you know, he returns as a character rather than a fighter, as far as I know. Anyway, so it's like the one guy I didn't particularly enjoy being. I know for a fact he returns, but the other two that I actually quite enjoyed, Akiyama at the beginning and Tanimura in the sort of third slot, both of them I've no idea if they ever return again, which is weird because I liked them, and so I would have liked to see them return, but the only one I know returns is Saijima. because I quite liked Akiyama. He was sort of, he had that sort of cocksure attitude, and he was sort of suitably Yakuza weird. I won't give away too much because I don't want to spoil it if anybody wants to play Yakuza 4. Yeah, he was suitably odd in the way he sort of acted and stuff, but in that sort of Yakuza compelling sort of way. And as I say, his fighting style was quite pleasant. It was very kicky indeed, and I quite liked it. I quite liked it. Very kicky. It reminded me a little bit of Judgment's character. There's Judgment's main character, whose name... No, his name escapes me. The main character in Judgment, though, he was very kicky, and it made a pleasant change from Kazuma's sort of heavy, because Kazuma does kick people, but everything Kazuma does is just slightly muscular and heavy. So every punch is a heavy punch, every kick is a heavy kick. Whereas sort of Akiyama and the fella from Judgment, both of them are very much more sort of light and fast kicking style. Akiyama had a lot of punches as well, I think. Most of his sort of finishers were kicks, which I found quite pleasant. The key thing is it just made a bit of a change. I think it's an interesting one. I don't quite know whether I fully like the idea of having the 4 characters, or whether I don't like the idea of having the 4 characters. Whether I do or I don't. That's the key thing to take away. Whether I said it correctly there or not, I don't know. But it's been enjoyable. But it's been enjoyable experiencing other people in the game and having the different fighting styles. Has been very enjoyable. But each part, as I say, the ends of each part have sort of snuck up on me a little bit each time, which is where having 4 characters has proven a little bit of a sort of, well, they've done it so quickly, because usually the Yakuza's average maybe 13 chapters ish, 13 to 15, something along those lines. I couldn't say that with 100% certainty, but I'm fairly certain they tend to rock in at the sort of mid-teen area for their chapter length. For their overall game, and it looks like Yakuza 4 is still set to clock in at about that time frame. But having the 4 characters meant you experienced a sort of 4-part story from Akiyama, a 4-part story from Saijima, and a 4-part story from Tanemura, all of which had sort of an overarching elements, but nonetheless they were still just that little bit sort of 4 individual short stories, and that's the one disappointment I think for it. It's especially now, granted, the fact that I didn't enjoy Saijima's combat style would have meant that if his chapter was any longer, it would have been a bit sort of like, oh god. But then I enjoyed Tanemura's fighting style so much that I almost didn't want his chapter to end. Now, I might be biased because by the time I got to Tanemura, I'd realised that I'd missed quite a lot from the other characters, so I did a lot more as Tanemura. So maybe that's where my bias lies. And I favour him because I experienced more of the game with him. But yeah, it just felt, it's unfortunate because it did feel like sort of like, yeah, everything I said, that's what it felt like. And yes, I gave up partway through that sentence. I just couldn't be bothered. One of those ones where you do slightly need a conversational partner with a conversation like this. You need someone sort of going, oh yeah, interesting. Or you need someone to be going, yeah, interesting, because then you'd move on and you wouldn't bother continuing that conversation because you'd realise that the person you were with was boring, bored rather. If the person you're with is boring, oh shit, I should have been relentless assaulting for quite some time earlier than that, but never mind. It just means I'm buff to buggery. I am so buff, I have arms like tree trunks now. They're gonna be used to stab you up and then stab you down and then stab you left and right at the same time. the benefit of having a splitting glaive. Bam, bam, bam. Or a splitting, whatever the fuck this thing's called nowadays. I can't remember what blasted's called. I only just looked at it. Was it like... I want to say like cleansing touch, but I'm pretty certain it's not cleansing since it's sabotage based. It's probably some kind of disgusting... Calamity! Oh, that's where I got the C from. Sometimes all you can really care about is where you get your C from. So let's think about game plan. I think we might be heading towards the end of the grind session. I think it's about time I tried this boss. I've got a lot more points than I thought I was going to get, and but that's just because I've been chatting random garbage for the past hour and a half. Which I suppose is, I mean, good practice for if I ever actually have someone present. But on this occasion, it's just garbage. Pointless, endless, repetitive garbage. We shall see what we'll do next. Oh, I see. That's not important. That could be important. I can't read it. Let's kill a Megistore 30 on. Right. I think at this point... Yeah, go on. At this point, I'm going to do one more Cactua, because the Cactua is near the save point, and I might as well. And then we shall do the big Crystarium push. I say big, I mean, it's 421,000. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's not good. It's taken an hour and a half to get there. But it's not terrible either. So we'll do the big Crystarium push and see if we can just maybe, just a maybe, defeat the big boss. Will he yield today, or will we have to do more grinding? I don't know if I can face more grinding, so gotta hope for a win. And then we'll have to make a decision, because there's the possibility. Because if the big if at the moment, if I do defeat the big bad booty daddy monster baddie at the end, I will unlock the next levels of their Crystarium, which might allow me to bump myself up enough to be able to defeat the Neo-Chew. And if I can bump myself up enough to defeat the Neo-Chew, I can get the triple CP thing, which might allow me to bump myself up enough to defeat some of the other things. But obviously that is going to be sort of problematic. Interesting. Okay. No, that's fair enough. I think I might need new headphones. I've been considering the idea of getting some wireless ones. Mostly for when I do the Miniature Mayhem side of things, because the wire is only just about able to reach where I need it to reach. Which is slightly awkward. We'll save it first, just in case something goes horribly amiss. But I have no real reason to think it will. It's been holding steady, let's be honest. This one seems just about sort of within the realms of my computer's capacity. Right, Ravage. See what I mean? These are now, yeah. Well, that one was 60,000. These ones are 30,000. Once you get past one of those 60,000s, you get quite a satisfying amount of, oh yes, we're making progress. But when you get hooked and caught up on one of those 60,000 branches, it's just like, oh, please, please. Which I suppose, oh, now this is interesting. I said she wasn't a medic, and I said it might be possible to get her towards medic. I can't hear it except for the phrase medic nowadays. I made the joke once and it is now stuck that way. But she's at least got cure, which means it might not be... Although it doesn't quite... Oh, she's also got a Suna. So again, not terrible. Now, see, this is nice. Going back to one of the early boundaries, that felt like I made some progress. I did. Not a huge amount, but it felt like I made some progress. So it felt like satisfying to have gotten that far. So he's into Sentinel now. Now, see, he's going to make a fairly huge chunk of difference here. What's quite interesting is Zaz, and I don't quite know why, because I'm fairly certain every single one of them has received the exact same amount of CP. Now, I may be wrong. Maybe some of them have had a cheeky boost, but I'm pretty certain even when you were doing individual parties elsewhere, every single character was getting that CP. So all of them have gained exactly the same amount of CP at all times. And yet, Zaz seems so far ahead of everyone else. Because he's dealt with his sabotage, unless I've missed a couple, in which case that would fully explain it. But no, as far as I can tell, all numbers add up to all other numbers. But yeah, he's already level 1 Sentinel, all the way up sort of quite high. And he's hit the 10,000 mark, which is interesting. Whereas sort of, say here, she's not actually working. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, how fascinating. Yeah, she's actually onto Sentinel as well. Oh, no, not quite. Commando, she's got a couple left. We'll deal with these first. But, in fairness, she is now onto Sentinel. Which, I mean, if she actually gets a couple of Sentinel bits... Well, having said that, the first one is Provoke, I think, isn't it? Or Provoke or Chat, yeah. Which is not, you know... I mean, it's what Sentinels do, but it's not useful as a Sentinel. Okay, it is useful as a Sentinel. But as a sort of non-Sentinel Sentinel, if that makes any sense. Mediguard, there we go, we've hit something useful. But the primary Sentinel, of course, in any go of this is going to be Snow. Because he is built for it, he was designed for it, he's the best Sentinel in the game, I think. Although I haven't said that, some of the others might surprise me. They might surprise me. But I think he is better than most of the other Sentinels. But yeah, it's interesting to have discovered Medic on Fang and Sentinel on Vanille, because that does open up the potential for what I was considering, which was triple Sentinel to mitigate the primary amount of damage, then immediately switching to triple Medic, which will allow for what would hopefully be considered rapid healing to get rid of the effect of the move, to then be able to get back to damaging a little bit quicker. How viable that's going to end up being, I do not know, but it's now at least possible. Whether it's going to be a good idea, difficult to say, but it is possible, because they have now reached that stage of possessing Sentinel for Vanille and Medic for Fang, which I was not expecting. But as I say, we did get 431,600 CP, which is more than I was expecting to get anyway. I believe you are still... Oh, just about. If I had skipped that, I wouldn't have lost too much sleep over it, but it's good to at least have it. But yeah, it's quite interesting. We have now unlocked every single role for every single character, which is nice. It's a good little achievement. Not an official achievement, right? Fine. I imagine filling out the Crystarium for every single character, every single ability, every single level, every single everything. That's probably an achievement, perhaps. Not one I necessarily plan on going for. And I think I saw one of the other achievements is get a 5-star rating on every single mission. And it's like, sweet mother of mercy. I can't even complete some of the missions, let alone 5-star the bastards. Granted, some of the ones that I didn't 5-star that are really early doors, it's distinctly possible that, yeah, okay, maybe maybe, just maybe, I'd be able to go in there and score a higher amount of points, but no real guarantee. I could have possibly lived without Sloga, but I don't know. I like seeing the completion numbers there. Oh, what's also interesting is there was the temptation to do triple synergist so that I could possibly go maximum buffs immediately as well. And now that's even more viable, of course, because of snow. But I must admit, I think two synergists feels like potential overkill, but also probably enough. So I'm not too fussed. This is just for the stats. Hopefully, quite a lot of health points, perhaps, so that he can, with a bit of luck, survive. I don't know if I would possibly be willing to shoot on over to be Snow rather than Fang, so that I can possibly bring everybody back should it go horribly wrong. But it's the problem with the way the boss is designed, I think. You are forever living on a knife edge, and not in a fun way. Not that I think there's any possible way of living on a knife edge that's fun, but nonetheless, it is not it's not an entertainment. It's not. Oh, actually, I've done that wrong, because I've realised there is in fact a teleporter down here. We'll bypass this fight though, because we're no longer grinding for CP, and just a single fight from those guys is not going to get me any. Well, it's going to get me 6,600. I know that off by heart now. I may have done that fight a few too many times, but yeah, you either want to dedicate yourself to grinding or you want to avoid it altogether. There's not a happy medium. There's not a sort of fun, just run through some fun monsters. No, it's all about bop beep beep bop beep beep bop beep bop beep bop doo da beep bop dandy dee da. Right, so I think we'll go. Whoops, there it is. We're going to go with Snow, Fang, Vanille. I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't know if it's a good choice, but you know, fuck it. We're going to have Tortoise, and then I'm going to try the Tortoise and the, I don't know what it's called, Salvation. The Tortoise and the Salvation. And then I think what we'll do is get Synergist. At the very least we want to do Synergist, and I think we want to do Sabotage. Ruthless might work. Yeah, Ruthless might work. And then Try Disaster is probably the best one at the bottom. Yes, there we go, that's what we want. Prudent Planning. Yeah, maybe. Oh, I don't know whether I'd want that to be all for one. I feel like if I'm dealing with buffs, do I want it to be just I'm dealing with buffs, and therefore Commando is, you know, pointless. But no, I think maybe we'll do that. So we've got maximum defense, maximum heals, maximum magic, relentless assault, all for one. Ruthless for the sabotage. What? Let's just double check what we had previously. Is there a, well, I suppose, yeah, there's maximum heals. I don't know whether I want one. Maybe medic there? The scouting party? Not sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can possibly live with those. It may change when I get into the actual fight, but at the moment it's very much a sort of, yeah, okay. The choices I've made are not so bad that I can't live with them, shall we put it that way. I don't know how well maximum defense, maximum heals will work out for me. But, I mean, in fairness, it can't actually work out worse than it did last time for me, because I lost last time. I've also got a theory about Doom, because it was suggested there was two options last time, which was defeat the enemy or die. But I think there may be a third. Because I think if you die with your summon out... He died with his summon out. What was he doing with his summon out? Most people wear trousers. If you die with your summon out, your summon will disappear, but will revive you. So I am wondering if I can bypass Doom that way. Now I suppose arguably there is a point of maybe shouldn't you just try and kill the creature before you get doomed? Well, that would be useful, but I don't think it's a case of killing it before it can cast Doom at the very least. Oh, what's this? I don't remember there being a treasure chest. Oh, Ether Soul. Oh, whoopty fuckarama ding dong. I think I've got maximum TP, don't I? Yes, I do. The other thing I suppose I should perhaps just specify. Just mark them as all dealt with. The other element is I have now got wax to remove Imperil, Daze. So Foul Liquid is probably the most crucial one. Although possibly I might want to try and get more of those, but I'm hoping these perhaps are enough. But yeah, Mallet and Foul Liquid, Holy Water, Antidotes, Elixirs. Well, I don't know if I can buy Elixirs, but nonetheless, I've got a couple extra Libra Scopes and Phoenix Downs and Potions. So I must admit, I'll probably use Libra Scopes to scan him rather than using TP to scan him, because if I'm correct about being able to use the summon as a buffer, then I will want to try and avoid using my TP in the fight.
Let's do this.
Basically, it's going to be if something goes wrong, I can afford one revive, or renew, sorry, is the official term. Renew. I can afford one renew and still be able to summon, but I can't afford to renew twice, which will be slightly awkward. Well, technically we've seen this, but it's been a couple of weeks, isn't it? So might be nice to see them all marching to the beat of their own drum once again.
Ready? Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't like to suggest ready as I'm ever going to be, because, well, there's always more grinding. Although it's interesting, with this one, unless once you reach the end of the Crystarium, it does automatically sort of go, oh right, now you can continue on levelling up the lower level roles that you've got. This one does actually have a hard limit, because once you've learned every single node, that's it. As far as I'm aware, that would be it. So there's a hard limit on quite how much you can grind in this game, and I have almost hit that hard limit in fairness. There's not that many nodes left, so if I can't do it now, and I then do a little bit of extra grinding, I will get to a point where I might never be able to do it, which would require a complete rethink. Which, yeah, I don't know precisely how to approach a complete rethink, truth be told. But we shall see. We shall see.
Shines on, once free from its fleshly shroud.
I don't really want to know about your fleshly shroud. Ugh. I've got a fleshly shroud. Look at it. It's made of actual flesh. Look at my cape. My cape is amazing. It's made of flesh. Real human flesh.
Meanwhile, shattered in a flash.
You bastard. You're just making us want to kill you more. Forever rushing headlong into battle. Oh, snow.
Hey, listen. It isn't real. It's just Falsey smoke and mirrors.
It's always Falsey smoke and mirrors. The entire game is Falsey smoke and mirrors. The game never really existed. It's just the Falsey trying to sort of subjugate you. That's the true purpose of Final Fantasy XIII. The Falsey are real, and as I say, playing Final Fantasy XIII will just sap your soul to the Falsey so that they can use it for power.
Men battle beasts. Cocoon wars with pulse. There can be no end to such conflict.
Ah, you'd be surprised.
But Cocoon's end is
No, I say that.
imminent and
There was a Final Fantasy 13-2 and a 13-3, so maybe there was no end to the combat.
Make it quick as an act of mercy.
No, I'm going to slay you,
Mercy?
you little bitch.
You mean murder. And Cocoon won't die. We're not here for that.
Yeah, it's a sexy weapon she wields. Sexy weapon. The way it folds out like that. Probably hugely impractical. I'd be interested to see. I'm sure someone's done it somewhere. I'll probably look it up on YouTube or something. See if someone's made a sort of semi-real. Wouldn't necessarily expect it to be a real one, but it would be quite nice to see one. It'd be nice to see someone's actually built one that can fire a projectile of some kind. Not necessarily full-on hardcore bullets projectiles, but like a little gas gun that can sort of pop out a few pellets or something. I feel like it'd be quite nice to see that. So do I need to? Yes, I do. Okay, so let's use that. Oops, not a Phoenix down. Libroscope first. And let's just buff, and then what we might try and do is use our new debilitation techniques. So hopefully with double buffings, we should be able to get somewhere nice and quick with buffs. As I say, to a certain extent, sometimes they overlap a little bit, but with Boon, the overlap is not so bad. Oh, Ultima's not sounding like a good idea. Or it's not sounding good for me. Okay, not too bad. Especially what's quite useful. Here we go. Get a load of debuffs on ya. Get a load of these debuffs. Yes. Oh, the good debuffs are here again. They're here again. The good debuffs. I'll just make sure there's a little bit of commando in there. I think I didn't need to worry about it because Snow's been commandoing quite some time. So now on to the breaking and back to the Relentless Assault. That's why you do want Relentless Assault and Try Disaster, I think, because Relentless Assault is much better when it's staggered. Try Disaster does sort of, which I know is technically, that's where I have changed my opinion throughout the game. As I've grown with the game, I've changed my thoughts about how this guy he is going down like a little bitch this time, isn't he? Jesus, maybe I overdid it on the grinding, but he's really going down very swiftly. I think he was more troublesome last time. Do you know what? Let's treat myself to a high wind. Bam. What we want, I think, is Scouting Party, just to... Thanatos in Laughter was actually quite nasty, wasn't it? I don't think nasty enough for maximum defense. Oh, okay. Maybe it was nasty enough for maximum defense. I should have perhaps gone with maximum defense. Oh well, never mind. Mitigation time. It's fine. All of the heals. Ultima. That's not too bad. I think Ultima we can deal with Scout Party. Ooh, can we actually slow him down? That'd be quite nice. Snow, make sure he's at least punched it slightly. Try and get that D-shell back. Come on, please, come on. I've put a lot of effort in building up your bloody ability to debuff. There we go. That'll do. Try Disaster. Should be able to pop that stagger meter reasonably easily. Although having said that, he might not have health bar to last. Although having said that, that health bar suddenly looks really slow. Oh, Ultima. Tortoise. No, Medigard was the better choice, but never mind. Now Salvation to get up all the heals. Don't know how his... This is the slight issue when you go for a sort of defensive type scenario. You can't always keep an eye on his stagger meter. It would have been perhaps quite beneficial if they'd decided, do you know what, we'll leave the enemy's stagger meter on screen at all time, especially something like a boss. Did I just block Ultima? No, I think he's doing it. Shit. Well, that's not too bad. Relentless Assault. I must admit, yeah. I do feel like I could have done with maybe having a sort of a slightly offensive, an offensive plus medic combo. But the problem is I don't really have the space for it. Well, maybe it is going to just have to be I mean, technically... Oh, that's disappointing. Why 0 Christogen points? I suppose they don't want you bolstering yourself between fights, perhaps. Right. Shit. What I'd really wanted to do was get into a... Well, arguably, if I lose, I'd be able to. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But we know he does the big nasty move right at the beginning of the fight, which means ideally we want to be on the sentinel in order to avoid it. Yes, the bird, the buggering bird. I mean, Zaz, you have 2 handguns, mate, yeah? You have a gun as well, Lightning. The moment you spotted that bird, you should have just shot it out of the sky. Because then I wouldn't have to deal with this. And I don't really want to deal with this. I've not been looking forward to this, because it's so... Horrible. Horrible fight. Horrible fight. It's possibly one of the worst bosses I've encountered. Not that I've encountered that many terrible bosses, but just I don't know. It's one of those age-old ones where it is just, it's got everything. It debuffs me. It knocks my buffs off. It has huge damage. And I think it was even healing itself, wasn't it? Towards the end. Towards the end, I'm having to do at least like 4,000 damage a turn. And it's not even turns, is it? So it's like, ugh. Now, can I get... I don't think I can, because I think it's immediate. I'm trying. You can hear me trying. I'm trying to get to the paradigm screen. Tortoise. I actually may have managed it. But I'm having to rely exclusively on wards rather than anything else. Which, in fairness, you know, Snow is built around the idea of being ward-based, and Fang is dishing out some wards. The only one who's not helping with wards. Now, right, I'm assuming I need a Libra scope. Oh no, don't do that. I seem to, okay, so we've got... Interesting, okay. That is quite fascinating. There is some sabotage to be done. We are able to sabotage, okay. Right, keep an eye. Keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. Come on, we need that. Deprotect would be delicious. Well, I haven't said that. No, well, I still think Deprotect would be quite useful. Come on, please. Come on, please. Come on, please. Come on, please. Come on, Deprotect, please. Okay, fuck it. D-shell will have to do. 2 D-shell. D-shell away. Let's try and get that crack. Requiem. Oh, nasty, but I think we can afford a little salvation, then back to try disaster momentarily. Try disaster. Now, I'm not... This is where I really would like to be able to have more paradigms. It's probably the first time in the entire game where I've genuinely thought to myself, do you know what I really want? More paradigms available. Because most of the time, most encounters, it's been very much a sort of, I'm fine not having that many encounters. It's not a problem. Not that many paradigms. It's not a huge issue. But suddenly now, I really could do with like an offensive and heal-based one, and I don't have that. Scouting party might work quite nicely. Just try and get as much advantage on him. Get the debuffs. Requiem was nasty, but not too bad. Well, I haven't said that. Has he actually done Requiem? No, I don't think he has. Let's try a High Wind. Bam! That's actually surprisingly nice. And then Sentinel. Ideally, I did want a guard on, but as I say, the fringe wards and stuff that are available to me aren't so bad. So Now, maximum healies. Maximum heals on everyone. Try disaster's not... No, I've done try disaster a little bit early. Go back to scouting party for a moment or two. That is of no real significance to Vanille at the moment. So let's get back to try disaster. Try and beat out this stagger meter a little bit more. Okay, that's a large volume of debuffs that I don't really want to have to deal with. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to have to deal with them. But, theoretically, double Asunas from Fang. This is why it's quite useful having Asuna on Fang. The only thing Fang is really missing at this point is Raise. And I don't know... I might be mistaken on that front. She may actually have Raise at this stage, but right, let's get back to Salvation. Must be relatively quick though, I think, because get back to Scouting Party because we may need to reapply those debuffs, and it'll be quite useful having Snow as Commando. Back down to Salvation. Chains of Torment. I don't think that was devastating. Annoying because debuffs, but not too devastating. Right, let's get... What we want to do is do a quick one of those into a quick... Oh shit, she's been blocked. But all I need is... The crucial thing there was Snow to hit it. That was all I really needed. Now try Disaster. Try and keep... Oh god, I need a... Don't know. Are you able to hit? Yes. Ruin. Good. There we go. Right, get some... Just some standard action going there to try and stall that meter. Now try and get some maximum heals going. Because I really need Fang to not be like that. Try Disaster. Oh shit, I'm about to lose that fucking meter. I lost that fucking meter. Shit it. Shit it. Shit it on a stick. Shit it on a stick. Shit it all, shit it all, shit it on a stick. Chains of Torment is the one that's going to debuff me to buggery. Which means having the triple medics may work out in my favour. But yeah, losing that stagger meter, that's a problem. That's a problem that I don't... Yeah. I haven't really got a good solution for that problem. Oh, Consummate Light. We want to get into our... That is so quick! The moment you spot Consummate Light, you can't get into an actual stance. You are stuck just hoping that the wards are enough. Now, I'm not going to lie, the wards currently have been enough, but there is the distinct possibility that the wards will eventually not be enough. Right, let's just double check these debuffs. Yeah, okay, he is being debuffed. Right, get a little bit of that going. Basically, we just wanted Snow to get the punches in order to then get plentiful magic strikes on it. Well, it feels like it's going a lot better than the first time I tried it. Let's put it this way. It feels like a lot better. Whether it's doable, I'm still not 100% on board with it. Especially because we're going to eventually have to deal with the Doom situation. But in terms of sort of raw damage to its health bar and raw damage that I'm taking, it doesn't quite feel as devastatingly outrageous as it did the first time I tried it. And a lot of that, I feel like a lot of that might be the Triple Sentinels, Triple Medics situation we've got going on. Because you can heal so very quickly with Triple Medics. Although, having said that, Fang is a terrible medic. I'm not going to, there's no two ways around it, Fang. You are a terrible medic. But you've got everything else going for you, so I can't complain too much. Let's try Scouting Party for a moment or two. Oh, okay, that's the one where he just dies. Cool, good. That's what we want. I would like to try and get High Wind in, but I'm not 100% convinced it's going to work. Just barely, I think I got that in. Right, it's going to use that, which is potentially problematic because I don't think we're quite got the health. But having said that, it's not done it. But I feel like it's going to any second now. This is weird. I don't understand. Are you doing... there you go. I told you were doing the thing. There we go. This time I've actually managed to get a Medigard in there. That was even earlier than previous occasions because I was very much Because it's very much the system. If you manage to stagger it, it's actually surprisingly easy to predict what it's going to do. Although it managed to avoid prediction there. But what it does is it loses the orb on the stagger, which means that when you add the stagger, you are basically going, and it will have to do one of the two orb maneuvers, which will mean it will have to do its big nasty move, which, as I say, allows you to predict it a little bit more than usual. Okay, good. Let's go try disaster. Although we're probably going to want probably going to need a commando in there, not too distant future. I must admit, hey, another key factor between the last time I tried this. Okay, vanille, no game, no. Vanille literally can't be fucking dazed. I can't remember which one. Removes fog, that's the one, I think. That one, yes. But vanille, I put so much in defending against that situation that the fact that she can even remotely be bloody fogged is absolute horseshit. Just need, what I need is one of you to be able to attack. Good, okay, that's fine. Scouting party for a little bit, I think, because that will allow us to mitigate some of these debuffs. The only problem is, of course, sabotage is a magic manoeuvre, and I've got this blasted fog on me. I could possibly try and remove the fog, but at the moment we're sort of hitting a steady kind of thing where we're not necessarily losing. Okay. You're doing the fog constantly, aren't you? Oh, it's such horseshit. Such horseshit. It's actually interesting, the fact that they still use mallets. Because I think mallets, although no, wasn't it, I can't remember what it was in the originals. But silence was usually cured. No, mallets didn't cure silence, did they? I can't remember what mallets cured. But whatever it was, I don't think it was silence. I think it was confusion, wasn't it? Ah, bollocks! I missed it. Okay, that might actually do me. You suck. Oh, yeah, no, 10,000. I think that's done me. Fuck me, game. The moment I think I've hit a stride. Okay, remember when I said I had the ability to do one renew? We're doing that one renew. But the moment I thought I'd hit a stride, it managed to pull out that fucking judgment. But the problem is, it's not even done. I don't know why it's done that. It's now, I think, yeah. Oh, we're in the sort of it can pull it out whenever it fancies mode. This is bad news. This is the bad news mode. This is the mode where I could do with changing all of my fucking everything. You know when I said I really want more paradigms for this fight? I really want more paradigms for this fight. Because I could really do with slightly more consistent and constant healing versus any of the other things that I've got going on at the moment. Yeah, we're still living on a knife edge here. The first section is now feeling slightly more doable, but this bit is still absolute garbage, which is unfortunate to say the least. I'm going to need that salvation because health bars are running very low. This is where I feel like having triple medic is not necessarily going to be the best of ideas, but I can't deny it's not worked too badly so far. It's just you're losing attack for the sake of healing, but then you're healing faster so you can get back to the attack. It's surprisingly difficult thing to look at. Right, hopefully progenitorial. Oh, this is the bullshit maneuver. Good. Which one's being affected by the bullshit? Okay, no, I think we managed to bypass the bullshit and it's not done it. Right, I think I would really appreciate a high wind. Yes. Boom! Oh, shit, no! You know what, I had to just... fuck's sake. I mean, it's just cock. It's just cock that it's able to just do that. I really don't think it should be allowed to do that. Because you know, it's one of those ones where I wanted to take advantage of the situation, and it just suddenly went no, and sort of put me straight back to the situation is fucked. Okay, let's try and get some buffs reapplied here. So, granted, I've not been using much in the way of buffs, so clearly I'm not needing them that drastically, but it'll be nice to have them, especially haste. Haste is really the be-all and end-all, because it allows you to basically heal very quickly, attack very quickly. I mean, it's very quickly. Everything is then very quickly. Although the fact that we have taken quite so much damage and we still haven't quite managed to get out of there is concerning, because I think it has upped its attacks a lot more than is desirable. Can we have some of those Shellras, please? Shellras and Protectors could do with coming out right now, guys. Which, unfortunately, that's mostly... I mean, Fang does have Shellra and Protector, but in terms of actually using them... Oh, Dias Array, I think, was one of the nastier ones, wasn't it? I must admit, I kind of wanted to go Turtle, but I made a mistake. So... It's one of those things where I'm having to live with said mistake. All for one, let's really try and maximise these buffs. Protectora. And now Scouting Party. Once again, yeah, because it's actually managed to dispense of all of its debuffs, which is a problem. I'm assuming I can put these debuffs back on, please, game. Or am I wasting my time? Okay, no. So at least Imperil has gone back on, which may help a little bit at least. Good. Right, there's some debuffs back on. Which means we might as well head into Relentless Assault, because I think we need at least a couple of attacks. Now try and work on that meter. Dangerous decision. Thy name is me and my doings. No, let's not take the risk. Let's cure. Try disaster. Come on, we are devilishly close, and it hasn't actually used Doom. So I think I was right when I assessed it previously. Doom, I mean 0 stars, which, I mean, come on, fuck you. And 0 CP, which is disappointing. Also suspicious, because the fact that there's 0 CP makes me think potentially there's a third form, which I really don't need. But there you go. I only just beat this thing. No, I say only just. I mean, I was not that close. Well, I was very close to dying a couple of times. But there you go. Whew. Genuinely fucking slightly knackered, and I know it's ridiculous. You're sat down, and you're playing a video game, but there's an element of stress. Have I ever paused? Oh, the simple pleasures in life, like the simple pleasures of a joke, well executed. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I'll take the opportunity. Here's a quick cheers to you, my friend. Good drinky. But yeah, have you ever paused? Yes, I have. It's quite pleasing that Fang is like the only one still standing. It just shows how fucking awesome she is. See? Even Snow, even the tank that is Snow, is down on his knees, and everybody else is completely fucked. But Fang's still standing. I suppose arguably she's destined, the idea is she's destined to become Ragnarok, isn't she? That's why she's still standing, and possibly the only one standing. But nonetheless, I'm going to go with the fact that she is just one tough-ass motherfucker. Although having said that, yeah, I suppose technically previously she was destined to be Ragnarok, so it is again. Do you know what, mate? I quite like the world as the way it is. Well, this world, anyway.
Stop it!
Lead us into the light.
Never.
Let her go!
We have no need of flood the sea.
How dare you?
Then I'll do it. I'll destroy you.
Ragnarok. The will to guide a world unto oblivion. Can you bear?
The sin of our salvation.
You
Fang
heard
can
me.
bear anything.
I said I'll do it.
You can't. I'll be fine.
Bit rude.
And you can't forget our promise. We promised.
She said
to
you
save
can't,
the
I know.
girl. We promised.
I made another promise too. To protect my family.
Fang?
Sometimes you gotta choose. Back off.
What did you do? This ain't the time to be losing it, lady.
You too, huh? What do you gain from hurting Vanille? We're in this together. This is my focus. No one's gonna stop me.
I think you'll find there's 5 people here who are going to stop you. Or at least give it a damn good go, but there you go. How great is Fang? She's great enough to take down all 5 of your other party members. And now you know why I like Fang so much. I mean, there's other reasons as well, less savoury reasons, but, you know. One of the key reasons is she is fucking awesome. It would be unfortunate if I did actually have to face off against Fang. Because,
Everything I do.
she's fucking tough. I mean, granted, she'd be given different stats, but even if she was just given my stats that I've, you know, gotten her up to, she would be a force to be reckoned with.
After all we went through.
I know, it's a bit disappointing. I don't think there's a shit ending. I think the ending is the ending is the ending. But yeah, this is not looking good at the moment, is it?
I deserve it. After what I did. Are they my sin to bear for choosing salvation?
Please, stop.
Oh dear. It's not looking good. Genuinely, this is quite exciting because I can't remember how this game ends fully. I can remember like the final scene, but this bit, not so much. Well, there we go. Her brand was scarred throughout, and now gone full on. Whoa! I'm sorry. Where was that the entire game, Fang? I like that. I'm assuming that's meant to be sort of Ragnarok-esque, but I think it's smaller than the original.
Yes. Let anger be your strength. Despair and save us all. The day of wrath is come.
I'd love to think, like, post-game, you could actually become that thing as part of the combat system, but I'm pretty certain you can't. Otherwise, I think I might have found that out. But then again, I don't think I did much. I'm not really... I fear I'm not much of a post-story person. Because usually, post-story, it ends up being the super-duper hardcore difficult stuff. And so I'm not really... If it wasn't obvious, I'm not that into the super-duper hardcore difficult stuff. I prefer to keep it fairly easy. But nonetheless, I don't often do much in the way of post-story stuff.
Anger didn't drive us.
that's why I tend to end up doing most of what I want to do before I finish the game, because without the story to look forward to, I tend to drift away from a lot of these games. But I really hope I don't have another fight, because I am sort of ready to be ending, and if I have another fight, it's going to be even more difficult. Unless they do a little twisty where it's like a super easy fight, which would be nice. Be a refreshing situation.
Let me go.
Please release me, let me go.
Deliver us that which we have too long been denied.
I'll deliver you something. I'll deliver you a big old fuck you, buddy! Let my Fang go. Don't do nasty things to Fang. Come on, guys. We've got this.
What do you want?
I mean, in fairness, Fang, he has made that very, very clear. He wants you to become Ragnarok, and he wants you to kill him, so he summons the Maker so he can reborn the world. That's, you know, he's not really changed his motivation, and he's not really made it too difficult to understand. So, don't know why you're having to ask that question, Fang. Oh, Vanille, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, brother, when Vanille comes running over to you? You know, she's a tiny girl.
Your awakening demands
Ooh.
an offering of pain.
Vanille, run.
She did that early on. She's not going to do it again.
I swore I wouldn't run away anymore.
Very stretched textures on under her arms. I suppose traditionally you wouldn't necessarily see much of her underarm, so they can probably put all the seams and all the sort of dodgy bits of the texturing and the polygons and stuff that don't really mesh up properly. They can all sort of fit under there nicely because you wouldn't usually see it, but up like that with her arms in the air, you could see a certain amount of the texture stretching.
Who'd be dumb enough to swallow that crock?
Sure. We've all had better weeks.
And we're all back from being Seath.
You can't be. Could be more foul sea smoke and mirrors.
Fang.
Or we're just that damn good that we came back
We
from
made
being
you come
monsters.
along. Second time now, isn't it?
I don't think Fang turns up much in 13.2 or 13.3. I might be mistaken, but I'm not convinced she does.
Somewhere cold and
She might have like a tiny moment or two, which is a shame. And I know, I realise at this point that this is a creepy level of obsession with Fang, but it's just most of the other characters do sort of turn up fairly solidly in the second and third game. The third one, mostly I remember Snow being in it, and the second one, Hope was definitely in there because I remember him, but the others, even Zaz I don't think turned up much in the others. Saved by the Choco Chick.
You were there too, Fang. Same side. All of us. Together.
You can hear the swell of the music, you know something good's happening. I must admit, I love that sort of orchestral boost. It's very satisfying. I can't quite remember the name. I think it's Tetsuya Nomura. I might be wrong. Or Nobuo, maybe? I don't know. Whoever does the music in Final Fantasy is magnificent.
Listen, you're not alone anymore. We have a new family now. We stick together. You hear me?
Yes, I promise. We promised.
God, I've
didn't
got a
we?
nasty feeling they're going to do a third boss. Cutscene kill? Go on. Go on, do a little cutscene kill. Oh, there you go. He's... The power of friendship is turning him into a crystal, I think. Well, I don't think it's the power of friendship. I think it might be... He may have had a focus of his own, perhaps.
The brand
Ah,
is
there you go.
The symbol of the focus we all faced.
They've now got the same style as
The
Fang.
mark of the fate we all shared.
We'll just assume with yours,
Proof
shall we, Lightning?
of the promise we all made.
Go on, just go down in a little pit, and don't come back from the pit this time, because we saw like him last time. He went down the pit and came back.
Never die.
Yeah, it's true.
Come on. We've got a world to save.
Yeah, but you can do that in a cutscene, can't you? Can't you?
We have the
You can do it in a
power to
cutscene.
destroy
Go
the
on.
Then we have the power to save it.
Yeah, save it in a cutscene though.
You say you want your
It's
day
like you don't
back,
want to
do
play the
ya?
game. I don't
Well,
want to
it's
play the game.
coming right up.
We gave the people what they really want.
I have sort of, I can't help myself. I have slightly mentally checked out of Final Fantasy 13, and now wish it to be concluded and done. And so I don't really want another boss, please, please, guys.
We can do it.
No, I don't think I can do another boss. That's the problem.
We made it this far.
Right.
Let's make a real miracle happen.
Yeah, let's do it.
Lady Luck sure ain't on his side.
But yeah, do the miracle in a cutscene though. Remember we had an agreement about the whole do it in a cutscene thing, because oh god, there's something more coming, isn't there? Oh god, please game, let it lie, Oh god,
No, we overreach you.
I don't think that makes sense, Lightning.
You don't believe in
It's a
anything.
good effort, but
You gave up on life before you were even born. Sat poisoning cocoon from the inside, waiting for someone to come and destroy you. Sure, you think the end of the world is salvation. All you care about is death's release. So take it, and leave the rest of us alone. We don't think like that.
yeah.
When we
I would have loved the
don't
next
go
line to have been
left,
Snow to just go, yeah,
look
we
at
don't
till
think.
find some.
And just,
Maybe Cocoon is past.
he's not quite that stupid,
It's
but
our home,
I don't know,
and
it
we'll
would have been
protect
an
it
amusing
with
line to me.
We live to make the impossible possible. That is our focus.
And now we're gonna fuck you! But in a cutscene, remember? Oh god! I didn't want the transition to battle game! Oh, you utter bitches! No, not Phoenix Downs, we want Libra Scopes. Oh, goddamn Doom. Okay. Oh, god damn it. Well, we may have to explore the Doom theory after all. Son of a bitch. Remember when I told you to do it in a cutscene, guys? I don't know how far I want to push these buffs, because it may be a case of what I really want to just do is focus on damage, because otherwise the Doom situation may become a true problem. But I don't know. It's not actually. Oh, okay. It's blocking me. Okay. I think the point is I need to stagger it. I'm hoping that's the point. Kaleidoscopic ray. Okay, let's go tortoise just to hopefully take the edge off. No, okay, that ray wasn't too much, so let's get back onto some medics and get back onto Try Disaster, where hopefully we can do some damage. Come on. God, I hate having a doom clock. I hate having a doom clock. I don't want a fucking doom clock. A doom clock sucks big balls. Can we do it in a onesie? I mean, if I wore a onesie, then yes, I could probably do it in a onesie. But can we do it? Can we kill it in a onesie? Can we kill it in a onesie? No, I don't think we can. I think it's gonna be a twoozie. I think it's gonna be a twoozie. I think what we want to do is try and fit in a high wind. My God, the music's really going. All for one, rebirth. Oh god, no, don't do a re. Oh god, what is that? Okay, I don't know, but Okay, I think the rebirth is just him bringing back his alternate form. That's not so bad. All for one. Let's try and get some more buffs up in this house. I think at this point, let's override what the game wants me to use. Oh, you little fucking bitches. Salvation, that'll get rid of it, I think. Because I think Asuna can get rid of it. Yes, good. Okay, Kaleidoscopic Ray. We'll just stay there for a moment or two to heal. Now Relentless Assault to get the starts of an attack going. And now let's just go try Disaster after all. Although I haven't said that yet. Let's go all for one, but let's try and get those offensive buffs on Fang at least. Might be worthwhile getting them on Snow as well. Might be worthwhile getting them on all of them, but right this very moment I think we want to focus on damage. Because if we can stagger it again, theoretically at least, let's just make sure those health bars are a little bit higher than they are currently. Kaleidoscopic Ray, god damn it. Try Disaster. We need to get back into building that meter. Come on, guys, come on. Oh no, not the slow. I went to all the effort to get haste and you've slowed me, you utter just dick nozzle. Dick nozzle! Temporal hollow. I don't like the sound of that. I don't know what that's doing. I don't know what it did, but it... Oh, I think it's removed all of my buffs. Well, that's just rude. Okay, that's not... I think it's removed the ability to... Oh, shit. Shitting shits. All of the shit on the shit with the shit on the shit next to the shit that you've already shat on. Have you ever had this much shit? No, I don't think you've ever had this much shit. There's so much shit here. There's an unfathomable volume of shit. You have never seen the likes of this level of shit. And yet, there is one true and only situation, and that is shit. Right, let's get Relentless Assault, although Commando Snow has been doing a reasonable chunk of change. Now try Disaster. Come on, we need to push this. We need to push this meter. There is no other hope. Mostly because I don't bring him along in the active party. Because I don't like hope. God damn it, Snow's slowed, but if the other two are fast, I think we might be able to live with Snow being slowed for now. And I think ultimately I kind of have to. Ow, that's not good. Don't launch me in the air. I need the moves. Please, game, don't screw me at this late stage. Don't screw me at this late stage, because screwing me at this late stage, that's end territory. That's we no longer speak territory. This is not optimal, but I need the medic. But then again, some of that is working. Relentless Assault. Let's go, 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 go. We have to push this damage. I do not want to do this again. Good. Here we go. Bam! You're done, son. You're done. And if there's another boss, we're going to have words. And most of those words are going to be fuck. And I can use a lot of fucks per second. It's not points per second. For me, my scoring system is just fucks per second. And I can unleash a lot of fucks per second. Crystarium expanded! That means that I think that was the final boss. The final boss. The actual final boss. Whew. There was a good moment or two there where I thought it was going to screw me over. Because it eased off on the bullshit manoeuvres, but there was still just about enough where one miscalculation and you could have gone down.
We're here to stop him. We've come to save Cocoon.
More so the Doom factor. And I can't deny it, I didn't really want the situation where I had to test out the Doom theory. Because I'm not convinced the Doom theory would have worked. But I was willing to try it under, circumstances of, it trying to do me in. I would have tried the Doom scenario if all else had failed. But no, luckily, we have just about managed to beat it. And I do believe we have officially beaten the story mode of Final Fantasy XIII. And unfortunately, we've basically ended the world, it would seem. That's fine. It's all good. I think we actually end up living on Pulse, potentially. I might be mistaken. But I think everybody ends up on Pulse. And that's where 13.2's set, perhaps.
Stay together!
Hey, grab my hand.
Okay.
Fang! Vanille!
Vanille?
Your stick's got strings. Use the strings. Although, having said that, this might be why Fang and Vanille aren't seen in the second game.
Ready.
Yes, I think it might be, actually.
Miracles are things we make for ourselves. Here.
Happiness is true. Oof. Yeah, this actually, I've realised now that there may be a very good reason why they don't appear in the second game, and that's because it would seem they turn into this giant thing, which is, I mean, certainly it's got the arms of Hecaton Kyres, and I'm assuming is it just a straight up sort of mixture of Hecaton Kyres and Bahamut? It may very well be. So that's a shame. I suppose it makes for a dramatic moment with the whole them sacrificing themselves to basically save the world, but it would have been nice to see them in the second game. And it does fully explain why I don't remember seeing them in the second game, because if they've sacrificed them in the first game, they're not likely to turn up in the second or third. I haven't said that, there is time travel in the second game, so there was possible. All of the arms. So very many arms. It's very strange. It's a strange way of saving the world. Ooze and arms. And crystal, I suppose. Oh, now. Who are they? In the crystals. Are they actually... Is that lightning? I'm not sure now. Or is that Fang and Vanille? Difficult to tell when they're actually sort of mixed like that. In the crystal texture. Oh. Hello.
Wake up.
I'm already awake, dear. Or at least I think I did. I think I am. I might be dreaming that I completed Final Fantasy XIII. There you go, it was lightning. Yes. They were turning to crystal, they did turn to crystal, and now they're uncrystalled. I'm not entirely sure what the lyrics of that song were, but I swear I just heard the words Monday.
They did. They saved the world.
Yeah. But at what cost? At the cost of Fang's life. And Vanille's life, but mostly Fang I care about.
That's one gift I'll forgive him for not rapping.
I mean, in fairness, they wrapped it in crystal. What more do you fucking want?
This is as much as we can do. The rest is up to you.
Does this mean we completed our focus?
I think that means focuses don't really exist.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and I'd say that qualifies as a demolition. Focus complete.
Whatever you want to believe. It really is a miracle.
Oh. I've got that slight adrenaline spike of, hey, I've just completed a game. And the music, the swelling music, the happiness, the fun times. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily listen to a song like this by myself, you know, just as a leisure activity. But at the end of a game like this, getting that sort of Dodge and Sarah. I always knew Sarah came back because she's the main protagonist in the second game. However, Dodge was a bit more questionable, but I mean, let's be honest, happy ending all round. Well, mostly all round. Not necessarily a happy ending for me because obviously I've lost Fang. I feel like I've recognised this song. I mean, arguably I recognise the song because I've played this game before, but I don't know, for a separate purpose it sounds familiar, but can't quite.
I guess they meant for this to be goodbye. And again, we've changed our fates before.
Come on.
Okay.
I missed you.
Sarah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Hey, come on, the apologies can wait. We got a wedding to plan. What? You aren't gonna allow it. Wow, right?
You don't waste any time, do you?
No, I don't.
I mean, in fairness, he's wasted a lot of time having to save the world and avoid a crystally monstery fate, so
I swear to you.
you can't really blame him for wanting to get it up and over and done with.
Leave you.
Get on to the celebrations.
Congrats.
But I think, give or take, that is the logo of Final Fantasy XIII. I don't know for certain if it's meant to be in that crystalline form or whether it's meant to just be Cocoon in the logo. But
Stand in their way.
We held the light of hope in our hearts and achieved the impossible.
would have been good if they'd made Hope the antagonist of the next game then, wouldn't it? We hold the light of hope.
To greet a new dawn.
So he became dark and evil, and yeah. That's what happens, guys, when you name one of your heroes Hope. You get people taking the piss. And it's an easy target to take the piss out of. Yoshiki Kashitani! Well done on programming. Isamu Kamiko Kyoto Yo. None of the pronunciation is going to be correct, I apologise. And yet I'm going to carry on doing it. Shintaro Takai. Tetsuyo Nomura. Ah, so that's the name I was thinking of earlier. So he's the main character designer, isn't he? So, who is the music man? Not Yoshitaka Amano, because he's the image man. Storyboards was Yoshinori Kanada. Well, I gotta say, it feels good to have completed it this week. I did say earlier that I felt this week was perhaps the one. But that was no guarantee, and especially it put up a fight. Watanabe! Okay. I like the name Watanabe, but because of my usual piss-taking fashions, and it's because I tend to go. I've got an Anabe. What an I take the piss out of it. That's the key issue. But yeah, it's basically what. Here, have a nabe. What an Watanabe. That's generally the joke I'm trying to make. It sounds like you're saying, "Oh, Watanabe," not the name. It's funnier in my head when I'm alone. And in fairness, I'm still alone. It's just not in my head anymore. Eiji Fuji. Keiji Karomori. Sound director was Tomohiro Yajima, but that's not necessarily music as such. Akio Ofuji. I may have missed the music trying to describe my Watanabe joke. My Hands by Leona Lewis. I mean, I don't know what Leona Lewis's hands did, but they must have been important. I think that was the song at the end, in fairness. Lightning was Ali Hillis. Troy Baker, of course. We know Troy Baker's name. Laura Bailey, we always know her name. Although, having said that, that's not... Oh, no. I think that's... I mean, it is right. It's written in the fucking black and white there. But I was looking up the cast the other day, and I wasn't convinced that was the same one. Oh, Carrie Walgren. I recognise that name as well. Yuri Lowenthal, always recognise that one. Wally Wingert. That might become a recognisable one from the future, being called Wally Wingert. Sounds like a DC character. Or a Marvel character, either or. Don't make too much difference, because they both tend to go for the alliteration names. Event planners, map planners, Motoharu Tanaka, Hiroki Yamada, Nobuyuki Matsuoka, Kawai Kawazoi, Tagetsugu Nakazawa, Yuichi Kanamura, Shuichi Taitishi, Kenjiro Iwasi, Masahashi Hanyuyo. The benefit of playing the Yakuza games is sometimes you do pick up a little bit of how you pronounce some of these words. Doesn't necessarily help me actually pronounce them, but some of them, like Watanabe, turned up in Yakuza as a name, and that's why I know it's. I'm fairly confident in being able to go, it's Watanabe, rather than any other pronunciation it could have been. But yeah, it's quite nice to be able to learn some of the actual pronunciations. I know I have a go reading them phonetically for the most part, but basically I find if you read them quickly enough, to a certain extent, you get away with it. Shin Ayanaka, Satoshi Iwashita. Sorry, it's got the word shit in it. That's enough for me to chuckle. I know. Ken Okazaki, Tetsuchiro Kitagawa, Naomi Horogome, David Hovanki. It rhymes with wank. I'm a simple person. Everybody should know this by now. I'm a simple fucking person, and if it rhymes with wank, I will chuckle. Miko Watanabe. My God, Watanabe. It's a magnificent looking Nabe you've got there. Watanabe. I'm still trying to push that joke as an actual funny joke. I know. I'm desperate. Atsushi Suginuma. Yusuke Nakashima. Jota Goto. Our go-to guy is Jota. Kazuhisa Ichigawa. Jack Fletcher. Straight up Jack Fletcher. We're into mostly sort of... I use the word English loosely because they're not necessarily English, but they're not Japanese, I suppose, is the crucial element. We're into musician, but I didn't really see the sort of overall fella. Warsaw Philharmonic Hall. It's an interesting choice. The only reason I say that is because you would expect it to be the Japanese one. But Leona Lewis, My Hands, Manny Marakin, The Vault in Sweden, mixed at Larrabee Sound Studio, North Hollywood. Adobe Digital, a digital Adobe. Jungle Incorporated, Quackluck. Queens Avenue, Alpha Company, I think that's the symbol for Alpha, I might be wrong. Core Development, Takashi Katano, Ryosuke Sasaki, Kaete Takagi, Nariko Takabatake. It sounded like buttock. I'm not even going to explain it fully. I'm just going to give you exactly why it made me chuckle each time. Daiki sounds like dick. No, that one I'm taking the piss out of myself. Ebiko Sato, Kazuyoshi Tashiro, Tobias Starr, Rachel Lee, Phil Bright, Tom Slattery. I don't think any relation, but I recognise the name Slattery. Why, I don't know, but I don't think it's the same Slattery. Yasu Kurosawa, Franco F. Fonseca, Neil Tuck Herrera, Clinton Foy, Kevin Hooper, Klee Kua. I'm saying the English names in the sort of slightly Japanesey voice that I'm using for the Japanese names. It's probably racist. I apologise. I shouldn't. But it's easier to say some of these. Andrzej Witchik? Witchik, I think that might be. That's Polish-y, I think. Or around that region. Hello de Angleterre. Oh, I was going to say that's French, but it clearly says French either. Spanish, Hector Lotaris. I'm clearly one of those people who says any foreign language words in the accent you would associate with them. Jürgen Goldner, Phil Rogers. Don't know whether Phil Rogers was actually German, but Jürgen probably was. I missed what the actual title above was. Miyuki Matsumura, Naoto Hiroki, Satama Onishi, Tomohiro Surata, Yuichi Kikumoto. Oh, don't kick a moto. What's the moto ever done to you? So that you're kicking him. Miyako Kibe, Yurie. Might just be Yuri in fairness. Kamamoto, Yokihiko Kono, Hiru Hosono, Kenji Chuto, Yusugo. You go. What do I want you to do? I want you to go. All Fabula Nova Crystallis Final Fantasy XIII staff. Is that the full name, Fabula Nova Crystallis? I must admit, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that. I know it as Final Fantasy XIII. But I must admit, I quite like the name. although I have forgotten it already, which is impressive even by my standards. Shinji Hashimoto. Yoshinori Kitase. We're into the single people now. These are the most important people. They get a full screen. Square Enix. EA Square Enix. They'll never come together. Actually, I don't know. They may have. I wonder if they ever have. There it is. But yeah, certainly I think the planet is meant to be Cocoon. Well, that's difficult. I don't know. I feel like the logo is meant to be representative, at least, of Cocoon and its sort of surrounding. Because you can see it a bit clearer there, actually. That I think that is meant to be the logo of the game, is the crystalline form of the planet having crashed. Which means basically they gave you the end of the game right at the beginning with the logo alone. They go, oh shit, the controller's gone off. Oh shit, that could be a problem. Should have been paying more attention to that. There we go. We might have issues. Come on. For some reason it takes ages to connect nowadays. Don't know precisely why. Never used to. Couple of oh, now we're also dropping frames 19 to the dozen, which is not good news. There we go, the controller is back on. Hey, the controller has actually just connected and worked. Yeah, I think we'll just change. We'll save over that one. That'll do. But there we go. And just in time, essentially. Just in time. Now, I suppose, plans. Plans of plans in plans on plans. So I think if I load that data, do I literally just... Yeah, I think we literally just go back to here, but we can now get into the next stage of the Crystarium, is that correct? I'll just have a quick butchers. I don't really feel like I'm not particularly planning on going ahead and maxing everything and going through all the side quests. But there you go, yes, the characters can now develop further. I can get an extra accessory and a roll level by popping up here and wandering around there. As you can see, a lot of these stat boosts are way bigger than the ones I'm used to. Which I suppose is, yeah, I mean, what you're supposed to do is go round, train yourself up, grind a bit more, grind more, lots more grinding, and then you end up, you know, maxing everything out. I'm assuming, can you now? Yeah, you can now go all 4 levels, whereas before I was limited to 2 levels in Ravager. She can now go all the way up to 4, or... Yeah, I think that's right. Although having said that, I've only hit... Oh, I suppose... Yeah, there I've hit no nodes. It's level 1. So I suppose actually it's level 5? Yeah, it'll be level 5 there, cap out as. So let's... I'll tell you one other thing I was going to do. And I was kind of planning on doing this prior to the actual boss, but it kind of didn't happen. So yeah, Chapter 1. The Defiers of Fate. So here we go. This is what we did. Lightning and Zaz are held aboard a military purge train, along with a group of civilians destined for exile. In stark contrast to the uncertain and despairing people around her, Lightning appears determined and focused. She seizes upon an instant of inattention to disable a guard, perfectly reasonable word, don't know why I managed to hesitate, and her impressive display inspires Zaz and the other civilians to take up arms against the soldiers. After clashing with army forces, the train crashes to a halt in the war-torn district known as the Hanging Edge. Zaz attempts to figure out Lightning's angle. She's weirdly reclined, like 15 degrees or so. But he doesn't have a protractor. I think that's what you need. So he has to be working it out via sort of trigonometry and stuff. But she shows little desire to share. The former soldier throws herself into battle without the slightest hint of hesitation. What could be driving her? suspect citizens of Cocoon are wrenched from their tranquil existence and threatened with exile to the world of Pulse. The purge has begun. The land below is set to crawl with unknown perils, and terrified civilians begin to rebel against the purge. A revolt also occurs on the train transporting purge deportees, as Lightning's battle against the guards galvanizes the other prisoners into action. The train comes to a halt in the district of the Hanging Edge, now a hellish war zone where soldiers open fire indiscriminately upon civilians. Lightning makes her way through the middle of the conflict, all but ignoring her uninvited companion Zaz. She seems determined to press onwards, even when the path before her is destroyed by military strikes. The peaceful citizens of Cocoon live in constant fear of invasion by the forces of Pulse, the world below and supposed home of terrors unknown. Were even a single Pulsian agent to be discovered on Cocoon, panic and civil unrest would be sure to follow, threatening the very fabric of society. To prevent such a calamity, the Sanctum, Cocoon's governing body, initiates the Purge, a government initiative officially entailing the deportation of all those who may have come into contact with corrupting Pulsian influences. However, the Sanctum army is now brutally slaughtering the civilians they were supposed to be deporting. Realizing that the Purge is nothing more than a massacre in disguise, Snow leads the young freedom fighters of Nora in an effort to protect the Purge deportees from the Sanctum soldiers. The Purge is a Sanctum initiative designed to protect the stability of Cocoon by forcing potentially dangerous civilians to relocate to Pulse. However, the relocation is simply a facade to cover the massacre that ensues. The government's true goal is the brutal extermination of all possible threats to a peaceful society. Having discovered the horrific truth, Snow leads the members of Nora against the government soldiers of SaturJay. Inspired by the actions of this handful of brave young men and women, the beleaguered civilians take heart and join in the battle in hope of returning to a normal life. Among the citizens who stand against the forces of SaturJay is a mother who wishes for nothing more than to protect her son. Cocoon's citizens have always been terrified of Pulse and the mysterious horrors that are said to stalk its hostile wastelands. Their fear is so great that if a Cocoon native were to have even the briefest contact with Pulsian elements, former friends and neighbours would consider them corrupted and dangerous. In light of this fact, the Sanctum orders the purging of Bodum in an effort to remove all potentially Pulse-tainted civilians. Accordingly, soldiers round up all those identified as candidates for relocation and inform them of their impending exile. However, SaturJay, the elite arm of the Sanctum's military, then begins to massacre the helpless citizens. This prompts Snow to lead the people in a rebellion against the army. Tragically, one of the civilians who decides to follow him, hoping to protect her son, dies in the act of saving Snow's life. From afar, the boy witnesses the moment of his mother's death, in shock and disbelief. A massive object is transported through the sky over the Hanging Edge. This object is a Pulse vestige, a lower world artifact that had been nothing more than a Bodum landmark 2 days ago. It was discovered that the vestige housed a long-dormant Pulse fal'Cie. The fal'Cie had slumbered undisturbed on the outskirts of a Cocoon city for centuries. The Sanctum decrees that the presence of the Pulse entity and its corrupting magics have tainted the entire population of the city, and orders the purge. For different reasons, Lightning and Saz now make their way towards the very being that was the catalyst for so much tragedy. Snow, meanwhile, is crushed by feelings of guilt after many die under his command. He only emerges from his gloom when Godot reminds him that the fal'Cie is holding a certain young lady captive, who needs her hero, now more than ever. Snow still cannot shake his feelings of guilt despite his efforts to protect the Purge deportees from the Sanctum forces. Many have fallen. The death of one woman in particular haunts his thoughts, a mother fighting for the sake of her son, who gave her life to save Snow. In the moments before her death, the woman begged the leader of Nora to take care of her child, but slipped from Snow's grasp without revealing the boy's identity. With Godot's help, Snow breaks out of his depression. He figures that if he just goes ahead and protects everyone, then the woman's son will be saved as well. After checking to see if the children are safe, Snow leaves the waning battle to his fellow Nora members and sets off with new determination towards the vestige. His fiancée is still held captive by the Pulse fal'Cie. A boy watches him leave, eyes filled with rage and loathing. To his grief-stricken mind, Snow is responsible for his mother's death. For centuries, a Pulse fal'Cie has slumbered undisturbed on the outskirts of a Cocoon city. On the day the lower world entity is finally discovered, Cocoon's peaceful society is plunged into chaos. The government judges the city's inhabitants to have been tainted by their unwelcome guest, and begins a merciless campaign to expunge both the fal'Cie and the corrupted citizenry from the face of Cocoon. Instead of the exile they were led to expect, the civilians face extermination at the hands of the Sanctum Army. The people attempt to fight back, but are hopelessly outmatched by the military. Lightning cuts her way through this battlefield, doggedly followed by the desperate Zaz. Snow, meanwhile, seeks to rescue his fiancée, and a boy, spurred on by dreams of revenge, pursues Snow with the help of an unusual young lady. Though driven by separate goals, their paths all lead to the same end, the Pulse Fal'Cie. I'm wondering if it would be easier just to read the last entry, because otherwise it is going to take quite some time and it's probably not interesting. So we'll just read the last entry in each one. Lightning feels nothing but anger towards the Pulse Fal'Cie. It had taken Sarah and cursed her with the l'Cie's doomed existence. It is the underlying reason for the purge, and it is an enemy to be cut down if she is to fulfill Sarah's final request to save Cocoon. Lightning's aggression provokes the Fal'Cie into action, and it attacks her. Zaz draws his guns with grim resolve, and Snow joins the battle without hesitation. As they deal the killing blow to the Master of the Vestige, a flash of light rends the air. They are pulled into a swirling void of chaos where they are bound by an ominous and inexorable entity branded with arcane markings. The companions are then assaulted with a vision of a terrible beast tearing Cocoon apart. Soon after, the Vestige finally succumbs to the combined attacks of the Sanctum forces. In the midst of the chaos, a memory surfaces even from the depths of Snow's fading awareness. A marriage proposal made to his beloved Sarah under a night sky lit with the colours of exploding fireworks. Can his wish for a happy future ever be granted? There is no doubt in Snow's mind. They may be Pulse l'Cie, but there is no way they can be enemies of Cocoon. Sarah's last words before she turned to Crystal are proof enough for him that their focus is to defeat Ragnarok and protect the world. Snow stays behind to defend his trapped fiancée after Lightning and the others decide to continue onward. Brought to his knees by wave after wave of Psychom soldiers during a protracted battle, the desperate young man is suddenly overcome by a strange phenomenon. The twin sisters of Shiva, Stylia and Nyx, appear before him in a blinding flash of light. They easily dispatch the remaining troops and then turn on Snow. He manages to defeat the icy Eidolons. I don't know, some places I think do say Eidolons, and others say Eidolon. I think Icy Eidolon, I don't know, that's the problem, but is soon captured by an unfamiliar Sanctum unit. A striking woman accompanies the soldiers, a woman with a l'Cie brand. Meanwhile, try as they might, Lightning's group cannot shake their determined pursuers. Crippled by enemy fire, their airship plummets towards the ground. If l'Cie were machines, they would seek to complete any focus without question, but l'Cie are human, and no human willingly desires the slavery imposed by a Fal'Cie. Zaz and Vanille support each other in their desperate flight, even. What is their focus? They are scared to even contemplate the answer to that question. Snow, by contrast, chooses to pursue his objective without hesitation, not because he wants to obey the Fal'Cie, but because it is Sarah's wish. He believes without the slightest shred of doubt that his focus is to protect Cocoon. Lightning and Hope, meanwhile, choose to fight. They turn their anger against an unjust fate in a world hostile to their very existence. On their way to Eden, at the very heart of Cocoon, Lightning and Hope prepare to enter a military-controlled zone. Hope now concentrates all his efforts on Operation Nora, his plan for taking revenge against Snow. Though she feels responsible for his newly acquired recklessness in battle, Lightning finds herself unable to say anything. She is afraid that if she prevents Hope from fighting, he will lose the drive he needs to keep going and succumb to despair. Not knowing how to reach Hope, Lightning rescinds her earlier decision and suggests they visit the boy's father in Palom Polum. Meanwhile, Snow struggles with his conscience. As he prepares to help the cavalry track down the other Pulse l'Cie, Snow swore to do whatever it takes to save Cocoon. What has happened to make him act against that promise? Now clear of the Val Peaks, Zaz and Vanille approach a stretch of beautiful countryside that promises an easier road to travel. Zaz's son Darj was branded a Sanctum l'Cie when he stumbled into the midst of a pulse attack on the Unedited Gorge energy plant. With the help of the l'Cie powers Darj gained during the incident, the military discovered the Pulse Fal'Cie in Bodum. Instigating the purge, in the ensuing violence, Hope lost his mother, and Lightning and Snow witnessed Sarah's transformation into Crystal. The whole series of events that has thrown their lives into chaos and threatens even now to shatter Cocoon's peaceful society can be traced back to Unedited. Had that incident never occurred, could these tragedies have been avoided? Who can say? there is little point lamenting that which cannot be changed. Yet, though the past cannot be changed, it can be forgotten, for a while at least. And so Zaz and Vanille make their way to Nautilus, City of Dreams, as storm clouds gather overhead. Meanwhile, Lightning and Hope enter one of the largest cities on Cocoon, as quite another kind of storm approaches. Colonel Roche, director of SciComm, explains the necessity of his actions to the l'Cie, declaring that the Sanctum's and the Fal'Cie's decision to order the Purge was anything but arbitrary. Had they not initiated such measures, he contends, and ignored the cries of the people, Cocoon's panicked society would have torn itself apart. If Roche speaks the truth, then the l'Cie's enemy is not the government, but millions of Cocoon civilians. Yet even if this is so, they must somehow find a way to survive. Overcoming his desire for revenge, Hope sets out in search of a new goal. Somewhere beyond the maelstrom of hatred and the grasping will of the Fal'Cie is the future they search for. Hope bids farewell to his father and boards the cavalry airship. Elsewhere, Zaz and Vanille are still on the run. The two fugitives wander aimlessly, riding the currents of fate to the doorstep of the City of Dreams. Sugar and Rainbows! What a title. Zaz loses his will to go on. With his beloved son transformed into crystal, he has nothing left to live for. He curses Vanille for her part in the tragedy, but killing her won't bring Daj back. Zaz's brand suddenly glows with burning intensity, and the Eidolon Brunhilde appears before the despairing father. He doesn't even try to run. Maybe death is the easiest path. But then Vanille puts herself between them. Zaz may despise her for what she's done, but she can't let him die. Once the Eidolon is defeated, Zaz turns his gun on Vanille. Unable to shoot the young woman, he then turns the gun on himself. Soon after, Vanille becomes a prisoner of SciComm. She faces transportation to Eden and public execution, the Sanctum's chosen doom for post-l'Cie. Watching a news broadcast on board the Lindblum, the cavalry's flagship, Lightning and the other l'Cie learn of the impending execution. To the amazement of the l'Cie, the Primarch reveals himself to be a Fal'Cie whose true name is Bartandalus. Showing nothing but contempt for his human tools, he proceeds to casually slaughter Colonel Nabat and her subordinates. Bartandalus then shrugs off the l'Cie's attacks, and with mocking laughter declares his intention to enlighten them. In order to fulfill the focus given to them by Pulse Fal'Cie, he states one of the l'Cie must become Ragnarok, and bring about the end of Cocoon. Sarah's task was simply to assemble the tools to achieve this end, to bring Snow and the others into contact with a lower world being. Her wish that they protect Cocoon was just that, a wish. It had nothing to do with her or their focus. Confounded by the naked truth, the dumbstruck l'Cie flee the plummeting Paramecia on an airship provided by Bartandalus. Their craft is guided by an unseen power that protects them from Colonel Roche's onslaught and flies them towards the reality hidden beneath the capital of Cocoon. The Fal'Cie hope to restore their world with the help of the Maker, but calling back the lost divinity requires the energy generated by the deaths of millions of people. Now the beings who built Cocoon as a place to nurture their tribute seek to manipulate post-l'Cie in the final stages of their grand scheme. Lightning and her friends have been monitored and assisted by the Fal'Cie from the very beginning. Even their clashes with the military have been carefully orchestrated to ensure their survival. Countless Sanctum soldiers, unaware of the callous Fal'Cie's true objectives, have been thrown into the jaws of the l'Cie in an effort to nurture ever-stronger beasts. Knowing this, there is no clear path for the l'Cie to take. Ignore their focus and become Seath, or give in to the Fal'Cie and condemn millions to death. Their only hope is to trust their own strength of will. They have to follow Rain's noble example and Sarah's parting wish by going through with their plan to protect Cocoon. More determined than ever after the battle with Bahamut, the l'Cie begin their journey to the untamed world of Grand Pulse. Fang and Vanille visit their home in Urba for the first time in centuries, seeking a way to free themselves from their l'Cie curse, but what they find is a broken and empty shell of a town, half buried in a sea of crystal dust. Meanwhile, Cocoon, the home of their fellow l'Cie, is poised to join the village in oblivion. There the people stand ready to slaughter each other, their minds twisted by Fal'Cie illusions. The l'Cie have no choice but to return and prevent the impending devastation. Even if every man, woman and child on the floating world regards them as mortal enemies, it is still their home. But the shackles of the Fal'Cie yet bind their fates. With their focus haunting their every step, the very act of setting foot on Cocoon might invite disaster, yet return they must. There is a war to stop and Fal'Cie rule to overthrow. In this darkest hour, they must hold fast to hope, because he keeps running away. Put him in a papoose. If they are to protect Cocoon, the time for appealing to long-departed deities, lost loved ones, or lights in the sky is past. As the L'Cie fly towards their final destiny, they make the only choice that remains to them, a promise to be true to themselves. When the blinding flash of light fades where their worst soldiers now stand, mindless seath, with no focus to complete, their souls are stripped from them at the instant of their transformation. Thus do the fal'Cie dispose of humans whose usefulness has ended. Roche, the sole survivor, defends the Sanctum army and their obedience to fal'Cie law, even though he harbours doubts as to the fal'Cie's true intentions. The peace and harmony of Cocoon cannot be upheld without them. It is his desire to protect the stability of society that allows him to commit atrocities such as the Purge. The ends justifies the means. Realising his error in judgment, the SciComm director still cannot change what he's done. The only remaining path is to live his final moments as he tried to live his life, in the service of Cocoon. The conflict among the people is coming to an end, but the danger to Cocoon is not over. Not until Barthandelus and his schemes are defeated. The cavalry soldiers set on overthrowing fal'Cie rule now wander the halls of the Sanctum as monstrous Seath. Barthandelus never intended for them to reach Orphan. It was merely a ruse to spur the reluctant L'Cie into action. Though the companions refuse to complete their focus, he no longer needs to manipulate their minds. All that remains is to crush any hope they have for their future. When that hope turns to despair, one of them, consumed by anger and regret, will transform into Ragnarok. And the beast, an unstoppable incarnation of wrath, will slay Orphan. Cocoon will shatter, and the energy released by the deaths of millions will summon the Maker. A new dawn approaches. It is for this day that Barthandelus built Cocoon, tended to its people, and watched over the servants of the Pulse fal'Cie. He gives one final order to the fal'Cie: Eden. Guide the steps of the cursed L'Cie. Bring them to the one who dreams of death. Bring them to Orphan's cradle. And then that is it. That is where we enter the boss fight and beat the big bad bastard. And I won't go through anything else here, but I mean, they do a lovely amount of data log, but I must admit, I can't help but think I've been reading that for 10 minutes. It's probably a little bit silly. I don't necessarily need to save it because I don't plan on necessarily doing anything else. The only thing I did was flick through those information packets, so I think we can probably just quit out, and then, of course, we can quit out once more. And I think it is safe to say, it is a safe assessment to suggest that I am in fact finished with Final Fantasy XIII. Now, what does that mean for next week? Truth, I don't know, because next week may be a new game. It may be a stall gap filler. There may be a little cheeky short thing, which will probably not necessarily be a SaturJay RPG. I don't know, because most RPGs are quite lengthy, so it's difficult to necessarily go with the idea of, oh, we'll do a little short thing. But yeah, I mean, there's the possibility of going ahead and doing something perhaps a little bit different. A little bit different. Oh, yes. But as I say, I really don't know. I really don't know precisely what I'm going to do next week. We shall see. I might just manage to get the overlay for the next long-form epic tale of adventure and swashbuckling. I might just get it done. And at that point, we'll just move on to the next one. Or, as I say, it might end up being pleasant. Maybe just have a week off. Don't bother. Or maybe do something as a gap filler where it's like, oh, yeah, this will be a nice little quick treat to do with that. But anyway, yay me, yay us, for completing. I'll tell you what I might be able to do, just for shits and giggles. I believe I can do it for free, but it's going to take me a moment or two to get around to the area that is required. But do you know what we did? We completed Final Fantasy XIII. Wait for it. Hang on. We completed Final Fantasy XIII. A little bit of Chaos Victory. And just for the sake of it, we can also do... not Final Fantasy, but nonetheless, victory all the same. A Dragon Quest victory as well. All of the victories will be mine. And yes, marvellous. I quite enjoyed the finale after all. I managed to finally get the better of the boss. I'm stalling slightly because I'm seeing if there's any extra bits we want to do. But no, I think we're... I can't remember what that sound clip was.
More tingly.
There you go. I was very excited over completing Final Fantasy, and I'm all tingly. Anyway, I will be back. I don't think there's anybody here, but just on the off chance, there's Malice for this evening's entertainment, and Mr. Can't Sleep Must Paint for tomorrow evening's entertainment, and then I will be back Monday for Miniature Mayhem, probably. I mean, there's always the possibility that that's not going to be a thing, but I'll probably try and do it. Then Wednesday for Hodgepodge, then Thursday for Dragon Quest and something new. I was going to say Evoland, but maybe something else. Maybe something new. And then back to SaturJay RPG, where it's definitely going to be something. Maybe. I said I might have a week off, so it might not be anything. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, cheerio.